Mike is hot.
Is it? But Kevin's right above that.
Oh.
That can't be. They can't both be Kevin.
Maybe it's
How many Kevins are there?
Maybe
he has
Talking
three.
about Derpy
Maybe he has
Toby.
four
Derpy
screens.
Toby.
Derpy Toby's been saying a lot.
Derpy Toby has a lot to say.
And we are live.
Are we?
Yay! Welcome. Does it work? Did we crash it this time yet? No, we're good. Jay says that we've done the thing. Welcome everyone to Korracast Live, our final probably Korracast Live ever, maybe.
So we all get bored.
We're all going to wear GoPros and just broadcast our lives from here on out.
So this is our season wrap up. It's also our series wrap up, which is very, very sad. You might notice Ryan's not here. He just got off work. He's on his way. He's driving as fast as he can. Hopefully he'll survive and make it. Jess, hopefully he lives through this. We have Jess, who, if you watched our review of the finale, she jumped in for the Korrasami conversation. So this is my sister Jess.
Hi.
And we have special guests today. Someone else introduced. I've only been talking.
This is Sean,
Hi.
Sean Gantka.
That's me.
Well,
I am the Sean. Who's the other Sean?
Yeah, I'm the other Sean.
Why do we sit them right next to each other?
yeah,
Okay.
why do we put
confusing.
Sean's next to each
It's
other?
like Pete and Pete.
Sean's travel together.
We're
They
keeping
do.
it
It's like girls
Nickelodeon.
going to the restroom.
We hide our numbers with Charlie single file, though.
So Sean, why don't you introduce yourself? Because
Sure.
We're terrible at introducing you.
Yeah. I'm Sean Gantka. I was, because the show's done. I actually started as Mike and Brian's executive assistant on the show back during book one. Worked my way up. I was by the end of it, the production manager on the show. But my claim to fame is as the voice of Hasook.
Of course.
And random guy on boat who dies at the beginning of book two.
I mean, I have no doubt that everybody who watches Korra knows immediately who Hasook is.
Right.
But just in case for the people, the
Okay.
one or two who just started watching, maybe you want to tell them who Hasook is?
Yeah, so, actually, I was talking earlier about what I enjoyed about Hasook is that when the first two episodes of book one aired, and they aired like like 30 days before any other new episodes of Korra, that there was like this entire time period where the fandom had time to like guess and see what's going on with these characters, and Hasook was like firmly in the cast and then just gone. So Hasook was the waterbender on the Fire Ferrets before Korra. So my sole purpose of existence was to leave so that Korra would have to take my place.
So you started the legend.
I did. Without me,
You
Korra would
legend.
not have. Yeah.
In the titular legend of the Legend of Korra.
If I had showed up for that pro bending match, like Korra may have just gone off
might
on
not
her
have
own.
become friends
She would
with
have
him.
walked into the room and they would have said like, "Oh, I thought you guys would be ready." And we're like, "We are ready. In fact, we're gonna win. Take that, Tano."
She might have just become like a tax woman.
It would have just been the Korra.
Sure.
Why isn't Korra a janitor somewhere?
I went a
decorator
little
in
higher and
Public
said
City.
taxes, but if you want to go to the
She
janitor
could have
route,
been a janitor in Republic City. They probably need a janitor. I mean, that city's dirty.
Well, after the finale, they need a janitor.
after the finale,
No, did you hear they're not rebuilding the city? They're just going to
they have
expand
the
it.
farming for the entire infrastructure there.
It's true.
So, anyway, this is Sean Gantka. Thank you for joining us today, Sean.
Yeah. Pleasure.
For those of you, hey, how many people are watching us right now?
36.
Oh, that's, hey, 36 people. It's a Saturday night. Sorry, you couldn't think of...
3 dozen sounds better.
Hey,
I don't
3
know.
dozen people.
Dozens.
So,
Let's just say dozens. Okay.
Dozens of people are watching.
There are dozens of us.
18 whole pairs.
Yeah.
So this is a great opportunity because Sean worked on the show.
He did.
So if you guys have any questions just about what it's like to work on Legend of Korra, we have Jay and Chris work in the chat room. Go ahead and just type them in. They'll relay them to us. And this is the chance. So until you guys start asking questions, let's get this conversation going, though. So
Oh god, he's already
Dead
pointed.
silence
Real
until...
fast, I had one comment I really like. Somebody said, Sean is the Bruce Campbell of Korra, and I appreciate that.
Aw.
you've been called the Bruce.
Yeah.
You've been called by many. The
I've
Bruce
been
Campbell.
called.
Critics have deemed you.
I've been called many things, but the Bruce Campbell of course. That's
is what you've been called the most.
You've
thanks.
become to be known as the Bruce Campbell of Korra. How do you feel about that?
I love Bruce Campbell, so yeah,
And you love yourself.
I do. I love me, and I love
Makes sense.
boomsticks, and I love. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Hey, thanks.
All right, Sean, here's our first question.
Okay.
Do you know anything about unlocked episodes?
Unlocked episodes?
Yeah, somebody asked, so does anyone know what those unlocked episodes are?
I don't know what that means.
Is there a vault?
Yeah, do they have a Nick vault?
Like the Disney vault, but for Nick?
I don't think so. I mean,
to
my knowledge, you can watch all of the episodes that exist. You can buy them on Amazon Prime.
Get all the red coins to watch this episode.
Unlocked episodes.
Internet person, could you please elaborate your question, and then maybe we'll.
I'm trying to think of like what that. I don't think that
Who
there's.
locked them?
Yes. Do I have to go?
If you're asking if we made extra episodes that will be made available at a later time, I'm gonna say no because we didn't have time for that.
Not to your knowledge.
we were making the last episode, like we delivered it the week before
After it was airing.
So like
when we were watching it, it wasn't done yet.
Well, we pulled what we call a South Park, where you deliver like 30 minutes before it's supposed to go on the air.
Well, maybe you just don't have
They
the
elaborate. They say the ones that Nick is advertising. So apparently Nick is advertising unlocked episodes.
Huh.
Are there more just episodes with maybe a few more scenes or content, possibly?
It could be like, you know how they aired the original series and they had like those little blurbs underneath?
That could be the case. I didn't know of any of those in the works, which
like
I'm sure
trivia?
that I would
episodes?
have.
They
Yeah,
did that
those
for
were cool.
Avatar,
Actually,
so-
Josh Hamilton is the one that did those.
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell
so
him
he was one of the
thanks.
writers. I love those.
Well, we love trivia.
Yeah,
So
isn't that fun? I miss Pop Up Video too. That was a great.
they still come on.
Okay, so what was the most stressful part of production?
Tell us about how it was terrible to work on Legend of
Jeez.
Korra.
Tell us about
Well, no, I mean,
demons.
I would say about the demons. No, you know what? It was just so fast paced, and like everybody that worked on the show had such high expectations. Like, if you guys think that the fans like have super high expectations, what you guys do, and that's awesome. But like everybody that works on the show, because what was cool about the crew that we had put together is that everybody was a fan like of the original series or was a fan of Korra. Because by the time we actually built a domestic art team, because the storyboards and the designs and stuff, a lot of those were done at Studio Mirror for book 1 and 2. So by the time we were actually hiring people in-house at Nickelodeon to do those jobs, they were already fans of Korra as well. And so everybody who worked on the show was like really big fans. So our expectations were really, really high, which means that as we're going through the process, you know, there's just constant like nitpicking and changing just to make it as finite, you know, and finished as we can. But you don't gain any more time ever,
Right.
you know. And so what would happen is you have like this much time to get from the premise to delivering after post. And so if we're taking a little more time to do the storyboard and then a little more time to do the design and then more time to do the animation, we have like a week and a half to get through post, but we still have the same expectations to, you know, so the most stressful part was just, you know, on the production management and coordination side of things is keeping everything organized, keeping everything going, you know, and also, you know, we're working on, you know, I think Brian said it in the interview, like that there was one point where like, you know, 30 episodes between post of book 2 and, you know, pre on book 4 are being done at one time.
Yeah.
So kind of juggling, you know, all of those. And that's on production. We're tracking everything from pre-production with writing all the way through, you know, working with post and stuff.
That's it. I mean, I don't think probably a lot of people know what does a production manager do. They kind of go over your job a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's cool because before I was production manager, like I said, I started out as Mike and Brian's assistant. So basically, like they needed to go to Korea, so I booked them a hotel. But at the same time, I was also doing production assistant, and I actually held the roles of production assistant, production coordinator, script coordinator, storyboard coordinator, design coordinator, and then production manager, all at different times. But like within production itself, we are the entity of the show that sort of keeps everything moving along.
Right.
We work with the writers to make sure that the writing schedule is being kept to. We make sure that the network gets to see the scripts and the outlines and all those things, and that we get the notes to the writers and they get those back, and then we make sure that the scripts get to the storyboard artists and that they keep to their schedule, and that gets to the designers, and so it's sort of keeping everything on track. And I always tell people I do a lot of work with our interns, and I talk about that, like, you know, the strength of a production person is actually knowing how to work with different people. Because you'll have, you know, 3 different artists doing the same job on the same show, but one of them you say, hey, this is your deadline, they're going to hit that deadline. Another one, you need to kind of remind them of their deadline on a weekly basis. And another one, you just need to shoot an email to about halfway through and say, hey, don't forget. And so, like, it's understanding and knowing kind of how to do those things.
To know that.
So, you know, you're sort of handling everything, but it's cool because it makes the day go by. And everything comes across my desk. Like I got to see everything from the premises through the final designs, like retooling on the part of Mike and Brian, notes from them, like
it's gotta be cool. I mean, I guess not so much your expertise in jack of all trades, but you get exposed to everything. Like
absolutely,
that's just gotta be cool. Like you're in depth, that like you know everything.
Yeah, when you get the exposure to everything, and that's why like there's a lot of people that work at Nickelodeon who start out in production, but they are like artists or writers. And I tell them that starting in production is really good because everything comes across your desk. Mm-hmm. If you're an artist who then starts like in production, for example, like you get to see everything, not only that the artists are doing, but like you get to see like what did Mike and Brian have to say about this design? If they, what were their notes? What was their feedback? And how did then the artist make it better to then get approved? Mm-hmm. And so you like learn the process. I can't draw. Like I barely do stick figures. But yeah, I'm really good at doing stick figures in profile, which is just a line. But that's about it.
Our stream dropped out for a little bit, and we had to restart it. So, so I think a little bit of the middle of what you said.
No worries.
Didn't get in there. But also, Ryan's here.
Yay!
So, Jess,
Ryan
thank you for your contributions.
Yeah.
To film and television.
Get out!
Yeah.
No, I was kidding. You can say it.
Or Ryan can jump in for me. I can watch the stream.
I don't know. Well, it looks like we cleaned up Catbox Studios.
Catbox Studios?
Yeah, that's what you didn't know. How's it going?
Not too bad, are you?
Doing good. Just got off work, so. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So we'll jump back into. So
let's do this.
So for the internet, sorry for. I guess we can't.
You missed the most interesting stuff I've ever said.
Yeah, it was great, groundbreaking.
You already touched on all the Korracast things that you're ever
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the real dirt has been talked about already.
They say they only lost about 20 seconds.
Oh, only about 20 seconds.
Okay, great.
What interesting things could I have said in 20 seconds?
Well, it should have still
like,
been recorded.
the next avatar will be...
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, you missed it. No, we should have that part recorded on my computer, so at the very least I'll be able to upload it to our YouTube channel later. So
Views for the reload.
Good job of purposefully dropping out the stream.
Yes, good. So Ryan's here. Ryan, Sean, Ryan.
Sean, good to see you.
Ryan, what's your job on The Legend
They
of
know
Korra?
each other. Ryan, tell us all about how it was.
How was work today?
Oh boy.
Boy, howdy.
Back to Sean.
Yes!
Yeah, what else do people... What other questions?
Let's get this out of the way. We
Okay.
already discussed if this was going to come up.
Oh, God.
Korrasami, feelings on it, discuss.
Well, here's the thing.
We have to talk about it.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a really quick thing because, one, since you guys last recorded your thing, it's obviously come out that
Right.
Korrasami
Yeah.
is canon.
Yeah.
So those of you that are kind of against it, deal with it. But what's interesting is, like I said, the majority of people, if not all the people that worked on Korra, were really big fans as well. So as we're reading the premises and, the designers get to see the storyboards and we get to see the animatics and hear the voices and all this thing, we're all nerding out just as much as, fans are. There are some people that actually refused to kind of look at things outside of what their specific job was because they wanted to wait until the episodes were completely done. So with that in mind, I think it's important to note that the majority of people on the crew were probably more in favor of Korra and Asami. And I think that it's because we got to see kind of the build of that, from a behind-the-scenes thing. But from the start of Book 3, basically, I've always kind of been in favor of that relationship. And there's actually a really... there's a really big pride, I think, that comes along with having worked on the show, especially now that we're seeing the reviews and we're seeing most of the reaction to it and stuff like that. For me, I'm so proud to have worked on something that, as a father of a daughter and a second daughter on the way, seeing something that has a strong female character, in and of itself, that's awesome. And then being, a huge ally myself with lots of friends in the LGBT community, it's really cool to be a part of that.
Right. I think, as far as the significance of our culture goes, I think I kind of maybe even share that a little bit. What's happening here?
I don't know.
But it's but you were proud to work on that show because of the things that you did with it. But I kind of, when I watched the finale, was proud to be a fan of the show because now that it's getting all this press and all this attention, it's hey, look, TV show that we all watch and that we all love. Like everybody's like, oh, what's Legend of Korra? Like it's this important thing, you know.
We were fans before it went mainstream.
We're the hipster Legend of Korra fan.
Well, and an important thing to note though too is as far as the importance that it has and all of these things. As much as I say we're really proud of it, none of it was ever done with just that in mind. Like none of it was engineered. Like Mike and Brian didn't just sit there and go, you know, we should do this so that we can be revolutionary. Like it's actually a good example of this is a friend of mine who worked on the show, who is gay. Like she loved Korra, and when we first started working on the show, she was so proud to work on a show that had this strong, athletic female character who was not gay. That she, you know, she didn't like necessarily the stereotype that every girl who, you know, was athletic or strong had to, you know, be gay. And so she was really happy about that. And when she started in the stories noticing kind of that relationship building, at first she was a little like, well, I don't know, like we're just going to go into the way of that stereotype. But by the time we get into book 4, she's like, I'm on Team Korrasami. Like, I really, like, organically is what it built to. And, like, that's an important thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what do you feel that, like, okay, Mike and Brian didn't go in with the intent of, like, oh, we're going to make this LGBT, like, you know, that's not their intent going in. But do you feel that now that that is kind of what it's getting a lot of popularity for, do you think that's going to overshadow the brilliance of the show otherwise?
I don't think it'll overshadow. I think maybe like there will be a part of it at the moment, like in this reactionary time,
right?
And then I think it'll settle in. I was talking to Brian the other day actually, and he and I were talking, and he was talking about the end of the Avatar series and how you had the Zutara versus Katang. And that when they ended it the way that they ended it, it was as if half the fandom was like, "Oh no, screw you! Why'd you?" And they're so angry. And, you know, he felt, oh my gosh, we just, like, alienated half the fans. Like, we're going to have these people that hate us and are pissed. He's like, I mean, we did what we did, and we're fine with it. But then what he ended up seeing is that it was like, this huge polarization. But then over time, people got over it and sort of then were able to recognize and, like, get back into, like, well, I really would have liked, you know, Zuko to end up with Katara, but it didn't happen. But this is still an amazing show. So, like, I think that, you know, I think most people that I've talked to and most of the reactions I've seen, like, still, like, even the articles, like, with Vanity Fair calling it subversive, like, that's part of it, you know, acknowledging that and establishing a new relationship that's never been done before is part of the subversive nature of the show, but they also list so many other ways that it achieves the same thing, which still, you know, which I know that you guys have been, like, touting from the get-go, like, talking, you know, the political commentary, like, the philosophical, you know, stances and stuff.
Right.
And let's not forget all the Star Wars references.
Yes.
Right?
So
I mean,
Star
that's
Wars
what they were really trying to...
Especially
So how far back did you guys know, or suspect, I guess, that Korrasami was going to be a thing?
Well, I mean, for me, it's a little biased. It's like I said, like, I mean, I've been on since book 1, and I was the script coordinator for book 2.
Right.
So, like Brian said in his write-up, he had been bandying about, you know, the idea of Korra and Asami, like, as early as book 1. So it was mentioned, you know, like, and it was a thing, but it was one of those things, like Brian said, like, they never knew whether or not they could ask, you know, like, hey, or suggest, like, hey, we're going to take it in this direction. You know, it was just sort of something that was mentioned, but it was never. That's why, actually, to me, like, that's why I feel that it is as organic as it is. That's why I feel it is as organic as it is.
That's a good
All right, we're good.
It makes sense.
That's why I feel that is because I knew that it was something that was like an idea, but because they weren't, no one was sure that we'd be able to actually do it. Like, it wasn't forced, and it also wasn't done in a way like, ooh, we'll just sneak it in. Right. It's just sort of like, okay, we'll make them have a relationship, and I think that. Sean, I think it was you that was pointing out, like, that, you know, they had this relationship that sort of transcended friendship but wasn't quite romantic. And I think that's sort of what they were going for initially. Like, it's like, well, let's just have them have a connection. Like, let's do away with the idea of two girls fighting over the same guy. Like, let's take out the catty nature of, like, stereotypical female characters. And in doing that, they created this cool relationship and... you know, went along that way. But then from that, I think that it just sort of grew, in that way to be something more, and then they saw the opportunity to solidify, and then of course Mike and Brian confirm that it is canon.
So what kind of reaction did you get, because it wasn't, like you said, you never blatantly just asked Nickelodeon, can we do this? What sort of response have you got from Nickelodeon now that it's canon?
I mean, obviously they let it air, and it didn't,
But I mean, it also wasn't like, I think I don't know if it was maybe you guys mentioned, or maybe it's just something we could have assumed. Like, they obviously didn't kiss, right? Maybe was it so much you didn't want it, like maybe that would have been too far for Nick. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, there was a certain level of ambiguity, which prompted the conversation after the episode, before the canon blogs. I guess what I'm saying is, did Nick, now that it is canon, and now that there's a lot of buzz about it, has there been a conversation between some of the more corporate elements or whatever? Are they happy with it? Have they expressed unhappy? Like, I'm just curious.
There hasn't really been anything that I have been privy to.
Okay.
I do know for a fact, like, I was actually in like a meeting at one point in time with the woman who's the head of Nickelodeon, and someone at Nickelodeon had asked, like, would Nickelodeon ever have an openly gay character? And she said, yeah, if it was an organic, we would never want it to feel like a forced story. And for whoever was doing #iCarly, here's some stuff for you. The example that she used is, for the longest time they were trying to figure out a way to meld TV with social media. But a lot of the ideas that were coming out just felt forced. They were like, oh, and then they love their, YouTube videos, and they love their iPads or whatever. And it's like, that just feels forced. And then along comes iCarly, a show about two girls who run a web series. And that was sort of your organic integration of, social media and stuff like that with, a kid's TV show. So it was one of those things that, like, that they wanted it to, fit. And so obviously, like, if this is something, when Mike and Brian pitched it, again, I wasn't in any of, like, those meetings. Those happened after I was already on the next show and just sort of finishing up stuff on Korra. But yeah, I mean, and to my knowledge, I think the response has been really positive on the network side of it. Like, because clearly, if they're going to be okay with not only the scene happening, but also okay with Mike and Brian confirming it, like, I think that they're much more in support of that idea than they are worried about blowback.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I also didn't realize that iCarly was about lesbians. I didn't know.
I
learned something. Thank you, Sean.
Canon, confirmed by
Canon,
Next question. Let's go two birds with one.
All right, let's go for it.
Questions started to pile up. Favorite episode of Korra? Favorite fight in Korra?
Oh, jeez. I was actually just thinking about this the other day, and God, so many good episodes.
Can they hear Chris?
I don't know.
I'm answering my favorite episode.
Answer in the form of a question.
Yes. What is my favorite episode in Korra and my favorite fight in Korra?
We're bad at live streams.
I think my favorite fight is probably... God, there's so many.
There are a lot.
Probably Sue and Kuvira in the Operation Beifong episode. With the exception, Vince and I were talking about this earlier, with the exception of how short it is. But that is like the magic that is Joaquin Dos Santos. So that one's great. Episode, I really like The Ultimatum, 311. But also, it must be the 11s, 211, Night of a Thousand Stars.
Yeah.
Because I am a huge Nuktuk fan. I wanted there to be an entire like Bolin Varric spin-off series where they just
comic, maybe?
Oh my god. And Night of a Thousand Stars, when you're watching like these Bolin Nuktuk movies and like he's waterbending, but you can see the bucket from off screen, like the high five with Naga. Nook, no. Which is Tim Hedrick, by the way. Or the writer Tim is the voice of.
You guys look like you had a little too much fun with the Nuktuk
Oh my
stuff.
god, so fun! I enjoyed those. The power of his whistling.
And that was my, I think, a lot of people's favorites part of the Remembrances episode too. Just the little taste of the Nuktuk.
Yeah. Totally.
And especially with the, the Unavatu, but he's in the tree, but he's on the phone, and they're like, oh, we don't like that guy. Like, who put him on the line? And, like a zombie Amon. Like,
Yeah.
it
So
just feels.
good,
I could
yeah.
just see you guys just sitting there like, what is
Well, and the
crazy
giant dragon bird with Bolin's face makes me so happy. And then one of the Avatar, one of the Spirit World save the Avatar, and we're good. Varric makes, and that was all boarded by Lauren Montgomery, and like she with Varric is awesome. Like all of her Varric scenes are so funny.
What do we got?
Yeah.
Our crew has disappeared.
Wait, Chris, where did you go? Oh, there he is. He's back.
Oh, I'll take this opportunity.
Take the opportunity.
So, Makora,
Yes.
What about it?
get over it.
That's
all.
I heard her first.
Well, no, I think that my issue, like, because I had some exchanges with people in an internet medium.
On the line.
On the line.
Yeah, on the line about like Makora stuff, and I think that my issue is not with people who were a fan of Mako and Korra and wanted them to get back together. It's more the people who are really upset at the show because it didn't go that way. Like, and that's just really kind of weird to me.
I mean, I thought that when that relationship died in book 2, I was like, oh,
Yeah, there was never a possibility. Like, they made it clear
when this
broke
doesn't
up.
work.
Right.
This thing doesn't work.
And
Like,
will never work. And then Mako confirms it again in Remembrances, when it's like, yeah, like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that a lot of that was just sort of like the hurt feelings over Zutara not being a thing. And they're like,
Probably was.
And we talked
water
about
and
that, too.
fire, they
Yeah.
can make a steam bender.
Well, wait, that's actually a good point. Is that I think Chris was the one who speculated that because Bolin had a firebender and earthbender parents, that helped kind of fuel him being a lava bender.
Please give us a class
Genetics
in
of
bender
bending.
genetics.
Class.
Has ever been
Do you want
disclosed.
jelly beans?
No, I don't think it's ever been. I don't think it's ever been
There's jelly
like
beans holding up Korracast.
established like what the genetics is of it. Like the way that I view it, and this is just me speaking. This is not Mike and Brian. This is not specifically canon.
This is
my
canon.
understanding of how things work. Because a lot of people have questions about this. Like you start out with like the lion turtles and stuff like that. My wife was asking me about this the other day. She was like, "Wait, but if this happens, then what about the?"
It's almost like this isn't real.
Physics. So the lion turtles like give people the ability to bend.
Like they unlock it, right?
Right. So you think of Juan like touched by the lion turtle. Now he can bend fire, but his bending of fire is like fire. But then if you watch like the montage, like he trains with the dragon
Right.
and learns how to actually master the element, which is where then the legends come from. That like you assume that then the same thing obviously happens with the moon and water and
Badger moles.
and all
Right.
that stuff. But the other thing is because some people looked at it and they're like, oh, but what about Oma and Shu? They're the first
Right.
earthbenders.
I think that's the
Like,
episode that...
I always try to remind people that, like, Juan was 10,000 years ago. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And, like, any number of things could have happened. That bending could have become repressed in a certain area.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's the idea, too, that if you have the ability to bend, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know how, it could sort of be repressed genetically. So there could have been people who had the ability to bend but never really learned that they
How to
did
use
it.
it. Yeah.
I mean, I
And
also...
so if it,
Like, I kind of also thought that because it was 10,000 years ago, like, the story about the Badger moles, that could just not be true.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
people,
It could be like
societies tell
myth.
stories.
It was
Yeah,
a myth.
you know,
Something seeded. I also got the sense too when the airbenders got their ability, or airbending became back. I got kind of a sense, almost in the same sense, like when a lion turtle touched them. It's like they've had that something just locked in their whatever code somehow, and then just whatever it was that opened the spirit, world,
Right.
unlocked that in them as well.
Yeah.
And again, just I don't know what it is, genetics, if you want to call that, I guess.
I don't
But
know
I
if
s-
we need the answers necessarily.
Sure.
It's like, I mean,
Midichlorians are the answer.
yeah, do we want midichlorians in this universe, really, guys? We have to... Sean.
Avachlorians?
Oh, no.
Meta avatars?
Let's never say either of those words again.
Yeah. I might need to leave.
Next question.
Next question, Chris.
Next question incoming right now as I remember it. Any funny stories from inside the voice booth?
What's your voice booth funny stories?
Yeah, what are some...
Oh, I told this one when we were at lunch today. Like,
Yeah, tell us what.
So-
that's a good one.
I was sitting in the booth recording Hasook, and so it was Jeff Bennett, like voiceover god, who's Shiro Shinobi is probably his most famous Korra voice. So it was Jeff, me, Tom Kinney, SpongeBob, and then in front of us were J.K. Simmons, David Faustino, and then in the isolation booth was Janet. So the 6 of us were there, and we're just, talking and waiting for Andrea to direct the next scene. And I say next scene as if I was in more than one. I got to sit in for the whole episode. Even for my line, yeah. Get off my case, pal.
Whoa.
Right?
You have a gift.
No, yeah. And so we're sitting there, and someone said something, and then I made some kind of joke, and JK was reading, I think he had a newspaper. He was reading something, and he just stops, and he looks back at me and goes, "Good one, new guy." And that was in my head, all of that.
I wish it wasn't.
But what had happened is because we were recording episode 102, we hadn't announced the cast, so I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't, jump on Facebook and be like, J.K. Simmons, I'm so funny! And so I just sort of had to, sit on it. And because, at that point in time, also with book 2, again, we had no domestic, artist crew. So there were 4 people that worked on the show. So I couldn't run, and Mike and Brian were there, so I couldn't run into their office and be like, "JK thinks I'm funny," and they're like, "Yeah, we saw. We were there. We heard the whole thing."
And he let's not get carried away.
But yeah, I mean, as far as one of the guys who runs the recording studio, my buddy Justin, they're kind of constantly recording, obviously. So, voice actors, like any kind of actors, often have interesting senses of humor and, say somewhat inappropriate things. What comes to mind is, there's those old Thundercat, recordings where you hear, the guy in Lion-O's voice, cursing the children that, drop something, which is pretty funny. But so, he has, they have this, treasure trove of, people saying things, and so they'll, play it back to them. If there's, a lull, there'll be them saying, just "Oh my god, I just farted so bad," and then so you just have one of the voice actors voice comes over and everyone hears it.
That must be a treat,
man. Just watching the records in general are funny because Andrea Romano she's a master, obviously, and watching her work, so we would basically take sections of the script, so they would do 20, 30 lines at a time, and everyone who was in the booth would just kind of read through a full run through, a full acting read through, and then they would go back and if there were other reads that they wanted to get, she would have them do it. So what was cool is she would say okay, let me get 3 reads on that. So she's not specifically giving a line read where it's oh, say it like this. Mm-hmm. She's just saying, oh, repeat this line, but give me 3 reads. Okay. So watching them be I see Mickey Mouse. I see Mickey Mouse. I see Mickey Mouse. There's a Mickey Mouse over there. So that's why I'm not crazy. See? I used to work for that guy.
He's guest starred
that guy right here, we kidnapped him, that's real Mickey.
Yeah.
He's very exciting.
But yeah, so there's being in the records was a lot of fun, and I still like doing that on the show that I'm on now, because Greta Lyle is one of our voice actors on The Loud House, and she's so funny. So funny. That's all.
That's all.
I wish you guys could see her. She's so funny.
Chris, what else we got, Chris?
This one comes from an Andrea Chewy, who's
that's my other sister.
Watching this homesick.
Hi, other sister.
She wants to know what your favorite bending type is and what you think is the strongest bending type.
Sean, what is your favorite type of bending, and what do you think is the strongest?
Well, I've always leaned towards water bending. Hasook. But even before that,
he was a great water bender.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
a fancy dancer, a musician first. Yeah, remember? Yeah. No water. With the newfound power of flight, airbending is pretty awesome and strong. And I've always thought, actually, I have a couple friends who liked watching the Avatar series and Korra and stuff like that. But because the way their minds work, they're very often why don't you just kill somebody with this? Why are they holding back? And so you feel the power of, because without air, fire doesn't work. You know, so if you can suck the oxygen out of a person, you can suck the oxygen out of fire. So that's negated. I don't know. I would still go with water. I mean, bloodbending, because obviously if you can bloodbend someone, they can't do any of the other types of bending.
I mean, I think the one thing I liked so much about just Korra as opposed to the original is that it just like completely broke the mold in terms of what bending was.
Sure.
Like it just constantly is just like, oh yeah, now we could suffocate people, and now we can blood bend, and now we could do this, and metal bend, and like lava bend, and so, like every spirit bend, and you know what I mean? Like
I guess the original show only just barely touched on this.
Yeah.
And this is like, no, we're having fun with this. You know?
One thing. Sorry, no, go ahead. I wanted to ask you a question, and you won't know. You probably don't know the answer, but your best speculation. So, if Aang had unlocked that last chakra in the Guru and let go of earthly attachment, thus letting go of Katara, would he have started floating?
I don't know. Like, I feel like it was.
You have to kill your girlfriend.
No, that's not it. You just have to let go of earthly attachment.
You can see her die in front of
her head has to explode.
Well, obviously,
specifically,
he hasn't mastered it in the way that Zahir was, considering he was.
But also,
meditating.
Zahir knew about the technique in the first place. He had studied it to know that it was possible. Whereas Aang, I don't. Well, maybe he knew about it. But probably
I'm sure
not. He never mentioned
probably
it.
did, right?
Well,
I mean, I feel like the all that was kind of an easier path, like a more direct path to just getting into and controlling the avatar state.
Okay.
Which obviously, like, he then figured out later. Because what always got me is, like, you assume that then when he goes into, like, his little cave and, like, meditates, that he does let go of his earthly attachment, and then he goes in the avatar state, and then he dies.
But the spirit wanted to
and then comes back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it would have gone. I don't think it would have gone straight levitation. Like, I don't even think that, like, other airbenders are going to be able to like jump right into the world of levitation,
right?
You know, just because Zahir did. I think that it's something that's like kind of so beyond, because when you listen to like the teachings, like the teachings of the other teachings of Lahima, like are so like anarchist in that way that most people getting to that point, because you know he's the one that also said you have to destroy things so the new things can grow, and so that mindset of willingly destroying something just so something new and better can grow, even if that's something that you love, most people can't get to that point.
Right.
Okay.
You know, so Zahir was actually done a favor when
Plea's
head blew up. You know, like
right.
what I was going to say with the power of bending, like that I've always kind of wondered, and like the fans can decide, is if you can bloodbend someone who is a bender, can you then control them and make them control that element?
Ooh, so you could like if you're a firebender or if you're
like
a waterbender, you could do a firebending.
I
would say no. I don't think so.
No.
I'm going to say no.
I agree because I think it has to do more like
because you have to feel it. Like you have there's internal things.
Internal things,
you can't just it's not a physical.
It's a control of the energy. I feel, which is that like because that's how I was explaining. We were rewatching all the episodes in preparation for this. And I was watching with my wife, and she was asking about Amon and his closing off of people's bending ability, and specifically with Korra, like how is he able to take all of her bending, but then she can still airbend? And I explained that it was basically like the chakras with Guru Pratik. Like what he's able to do is bloodbend a part of them that shuts off the energy that allows them to bend. But you can only shut off something that's been unlocked.
Yeah, it's active.
And so because she had not unlocked airbending yet, there was no airbending to block. Like is the way that I viewed it. That again, that's me. That's not specifically canon, but that's how I explained it to myself.
Vince put it, he broke their brains.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of did in a way, right? I don't know how else to say that.
All right, next question.
Next question, Chris.
Legend of Korra, greatest or greaterest show ever? The question.
Well, can you answer that? Legend of Korra, greatest or greaterest?
Is along the lines is like, do you think Korra could potentially go down in kind of like TV history, like along the lines of like a Breaking Bad or Batman TAS?
I think it could.
Breaking Bad and Batman TAS.
That is the exact example.
That is the exact. I don't know that it'll reach Breaking Bad levels, but I feel like it could definitely be up there with Batman the Animated Series, which is one that again most of the people on the crew were huge fans of growing up.
Love Animated Series.
Such a good show.
I just ordered a Korra shirt that is in the style of the animated series, but it's Korra standing on the rooftops of Gotham. It's pretty cool.
Nice. That's awesome. I mean, I would hope, like, because that's the thing is, and that's one of the reasons why we weren't so.
You have to stop.
I have to stop. I gotta
stop that. Every time you reach in there, I have to like control myself from laughing.
I'm so hungry.
Give me a shirt. I'm just gonna put a little pile. There we go.
Okay.
I mean, I would hope, and I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't, like, we on the show didn't freak out when the show went digital, because ultimately, when you looked at how many people were watching on TV versus how many people were watching digitally online, buying it and stuff like that, far more people were watching it online. So I feel like we weren't worried about it. Like, I think that the way that it got out, unfortunately, the fans, way to go, guys, beat the network to the punch is basically what happened, because fans were like looking at their TV guide thing. Do they still call it a TV guide?
Yeah,
some of you kids who are like 18 even know what TV guide is.
The actual TV guide, or just the guide on your menu?
The guide on is that still the thing that says what's on? People were able to look at that and be like, well, this week there are 2 episodes of Korra. Next week there's 2 episodes of Korra, and the week after that 2 episodes of Korra. And then the next week they checked and they're like 2 episodes, 1 episode, no episodes. They're canceling Korra. and then there's like the quick, so it's like, oh, pulling Korra from the air and blah blah blah. And, like, the miscommunication, misunderstanding of what pulling from the air means versus canceling.
Yeah.
Because we sort of laughed at, like, we didn't laugh at you that you were worried that it was getting canceled, but we laughed at the idea of thinking that it was getting canceled, because basically by that time, we were 90% done with all of the series. That's actually one thing that, like, to also address, like, when it comes to the idea of, like, Korsami or like any of the other ideas that people felt were like fan service or a reaction to that. Like, one thing to understand, like, with the way that production works, I know Brian has sort of addressed it before, but like, by the time you guys were seeing the beginning of book 3, which is typically where a lot of the Korra Asami like stuff started. There are some people obviously that shipped those 2 because you ship whoever you can think of.
Right.
Like, I shipped that chair and that bottle because they're there and I want to be the first to do it. But like, I think the majority of people started with book 3, and one thing to keep in mind is that by the time book 3 was on the air, which was this last summer, like, our board artists were basically done with book 4. All the scripts were done, all the boards were done. It was just a matter of sending them overseas to be animated, and like, some of them actually were already even done. Like, some of book 4 was done animation wise. So like, to think like, oh, well, they only did that because the fans like those 2 characters together. It's like, by the time the fans were posting about how much they like those 2 characters together, we were already done with the series. Right. So, like, it didn't change anything that we were doing. And I know that there was some stuff about, like, how the ending changed, which is true, but it only changed to something that had already been thought of. And it's just that not everybody, because, some board artists were off as early as, like, July of this last year. So, it may have changed since the last incarnation that they had seen, but it definitely didn't change from what was pitched to the network and all that jazz.
It's just ridiculous, like the unprecedentedly short amount of time to have 3 seasons of a series air in 1 year. It was 1 year, and I mean, like, if you Avatar, like the original series, it took like 3 solid years to air the whole series. I don't understand how you guys did it. The production schedule must have just been, and you had to manage that. Well, how are you standing?
Well, I was lucky. Benjamin Kaltenegger was our manager before I was. He managed the majority of that. Like, I just sort of like, I was actually really excited because I was moving up to manager, and I was going to be managing what I called a T-ball pace. He handled all like the major league stuff. Like, I just sort of got to clean up for him. But what's interesting too is that, like, because we were talking about it earlier, like, we had been working on Korra for 2 years by the time book 1 actually aired.
Yeah.
So we were already into book 3 and like some of the ideas for into book 2 and into the ideas for book 3. And that's another thing. Like, some of the comments that I've seen have talked about that, like, Korra and Maka were meant to end up together because that's the way book 1 ended. Right. It was supposed to just be a miniseries. But something to keep in mind is we were actually picked up not only for book 2, but book 3 and 4 before book 1 even aired. Almost about halfway through working on book 1, we were picked up for book 2. So that did alter how book 1 was going to end in order to set up for the existence of a book 2. Right. So a lot of that did. I mean, it makes logical sense from what, like, some people understand to be like, oh, well, it was only supposed to be these 12 episodes, so obviously what is in those 12 episodes is more holy. And it's like, yeah, but those 12 episodes changed once we knew there was going to be more. Yeah. Which we did before we finished making those.
We good?
Interesting.
Yeah, we're getting good questions. So.
Good.
Oh, good questions. Go.
Good
I'll
questions,
stop
go.
talking.
I gave
as
away
much.
my jelly beans.
Real
Probably a good thing.
quick one is, why is there so much platinum at the disposal of bad guys through the entirety of Korra? Platinum was rare.
Well, it's rare on our Earth, but over there, it may as well be.
The Colossus was made of a lot of platinum.
Yeah, well, those were the domes. Yeah, the domes
okay.
in Jiaofu were made of platinum, and that's why she took down the dome.
Yeah,
So
I got that. I
same-
just didn't know that those were made of
Yeah,
platinum.
that was cool because they didn't ever explicitly say what that was going on, but they, if you
Right.
watch
Paying
it,
attention.
you pay attention.
My question with that is, how do you that quickly turn those domes into the giant
Especially
bag,
since they cannot
since
be
you
bent.
can't bend it? If you can bend it,
They did it within
so
less
much
than a
fun.
week than they thought it was.
Yeah, like a week ahead of schedule. Did they?
Okay, did
Sean, that's a great question. Why don't you answer it for us?
yeah, they probably just hired a bunch of they had work camps.
Yeah,
So it was just a bunch of non-benders hammering platinum for days.
were we allowed to find it funny that the entire Team Avatar was so they're like, what happened? They're a week early. A week early. They're scheduled 2 weeks. Like,
You told us they were going to attack our city in 2 weeks.
were we allowed to find it funny that
Come
people
on.
reacted in that way?
If you truly pay attention to a theme in the Avatar series, being Avatar and Korra, scheduling is important. Sokka is all about schedules. It's all it has to come down.
That's true.
And then Korra would never have found Tenzin in 209. If they weren't on their schedule.
Yes, that's
Tenzin knew where they were going to be, and so she had studied the schedule so
Kuvira
many
is a
times.
true monster because she just rips up
Disregarded
schedules.
all
Yeah.
scheduling.
The entire Spirit Library episode of Avatar was about a calendar.
Right?
This is true.
But these are bad guys. Bad guys don't have to keep to any schedule.
That's what
That's
that's
what-
what
Some
You know what
guys
it means to be a good guy is to keep to a schedule.
But what I will defend, though, is I'll say that Kuvira must have expected the entire time that Julie was suspect.
yeah.
And so she was
Yeah.
fed misinformation. So the calendar that was explained to those slave labor workers bending platinum day and night was that they only had 2 weeks and not 3.
Yeah. All right, well, that's true. So she had her own schedule to keep. So
Yeah.
there's still
Okay.
a schedule per se.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That really helped me.
We have a good one for Sean here.
Okay.
How did you get into working at Nick, and what would you give advice who wants to go into the same type of work as you guys do?
All right.
Keep
Well,
asking him that.
yeah, I took a really conventional path into animation, which is that I was a college professor. I was a professor of English in Fullerton for whatever reason.
So put me there. I was born as that professor.
And so I was doing that and working at Disneyland at the same time. So I'm giving you this. This is your path into animation. If you can recreate this.
Become professor. Work at Disneyland.
Well, so we'll go in this order. You go to Cal State Fullerton. You work at Disneyland. While at Disneyland, you befriend and become best friends with a really cool dude who is an animation and illustration major at Cal State Fullerton. And then you start teaching English while he goes up and works on SpongeBob. And then when you along with a whole bunch of other people lose your job as a teacher because the California teaching industry goes to crap. And then you're sitting on your couch with him commiserating, like, what am I going to do with my life? And he's like, you should come work at Nickelodeon. And then you say, I should come work at Nickelodeon. And then you apply for an internship and you get the internship. And then you do the internship, and then a couple months later you apply for a job and you get a job.
All right.
Step 3, profit.
Yeah.
So
Three,
this is the case where your student actually got you the job.
well, no, it was my best friend. Like he, and he's actually my co-creator because to update everybody on the internets. So production manager, and then my best friend and I are actually like developing a show, which is a lot of fun, and like working on some other stuff. So I don't know. Like if you really want to get into the industry, like my best advice would be to just get in.
Sleep around.
Casting couches. No, not that at all.
Shawnee Gantka.
A lot of bad messages. Someone saying, so you're saying F school.
Well, okay, so actually this is something that's funny.
Prepare the damage, Sean.
I do a ton of work with our interns at Nickelodeon, and I struggle so much because there's like industry me, and then there's professor me, because I still teach on the side. And so when I'm working with these interns, they, some of them have the opportunity to maybe get jobs like at the end of their internship, and maybe they still have a year left of school. And so like industry professional me is like, look, the animation industry is not specifically an industry, especially for artists and writers and stuff, that requires a degree. So if you can get a job, take the job. But then professor me is like, please finish school. please finish school so that you have a degree and you have a safety net in case things don't work out. So my biggest thing is, so go to school. But what you study doesn't necessarily like matter as specifically within the industry. So find internships, find entry-level jobs like production assistants, executive assistants, working as post assistants, stuff like that. Find something that might sort of be in the way that you would be interested. If you can get internships, that's going to be your best way. Most internships, actually, at big studios at least, are paid now. So that's good, including Nickelodeon. It was not when I interned. So I did like 32 hours a week on top of my regular job for free. And now I loathe and I'm jealous of the current interns because they get paid. But yeah, I mean, so if you're really interested in getting in, find a way to try and do an internship, because you'll get to know exactly what you want to do and where you might fit in the industry. And then you build from there and you network and get to know people. And you'd be surprised. If you impress enough people in like those entry-level jobs, in those internships, it's a very small world, the animation industry, and so you will make connections that will help you out. I actually got the job on Avatar because I got a no on another job. Like, I'd interviewed to be an executive assistant on another job, or another show, and they were like, hey, no, but I really liked you, so I'm going to pass your resume on to another show that's staffing up. And of course, because I knew a bunch of people at Nickelodeon by that point, I was like, is it the Avatar miniseries? And they were like, well, yeah, it actually is. And I was like, because I was a huge fan of the original series. And so then I went in, and later on I found out like I was the only one that interviewed for the job, like because of that recommendation. So you'd be surprised like how well that can work out.
And now you're here in a garage.
Yeah, moving on up.
How far are you falling?
All right, this question is from one Kevin Clickman to one Ryan Davis.
Uh-oh.
Did you take out the trash today?
No, I didn't actually.
Kevin is Ryan's roommate and co-host on the hit series Korracast.
But I left some cheese balls in the big tub of cheese balls.
I wish you did that.
That's a good place to leave them.
It's a big old tub of cheese balls.
We have a question that's repeating here. Amanda Riviera wants to know, why did The Legend of Korra seem much more darker than Last Airbender, like with murders, suicides?
What the heck, Sean?
Yeah.
Why was it dark? Why was Korra maybe dark? Why was it darker than the original?
Why the lean towards the darker side of the force?
I think it was largely, I mean, what I noticed with it is it was largely because we had aged things up from what the original series was. You know, when you have, Aang is 12 theoretically, mentally 12, 112 physically. Katara and Sokka are like 14, 15, 13, somewhere in there. Zuko's like the oldest, still at like 16, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that in Korra, like 16 is like the youngest, and then you sort of go up from there. And so like you sort of deal with these themes. It's interesting though, because like I think that Avatar feels a lot younger, and I think that overall it is because the characters are younger, obviously, but I think that there are also some things, like when you talk about, Aang has this situation where he needs to beat this guy, and he's turning to his friends and saying, hey, I know that I have to beat him, but I'm not going to kill him. You tell me how to, beat him without taking his life. To me, that's a really adult concept. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I guess it feels a little darker to go the way that it did, but I think that that's sort of the natural progression of the teaching of philosophy. Like, I think there's a class, I think it's either Berkeley or Davis, one of those, either your school or the or that Berkeley.
I'm a professor there.
Yeah. Professor Davis, who works at Davis. But there's like a philosophy through Avatar: The Last Airbender, and so they like watch episodes and then discuss the philosophical concepts that are taught or teachable through that episode. And I think that that's sort of where the writing was going with this show, is to kind of continue that, but sort of to deal with maybe some older themes. And part of it too is I think that they knew that the general fan base was A, going to stick with them, and B, had grown up. I feel like most of the people who were Vince, that were, like a kid when the first thing came out, but now in your 20s, like, it would be fun to go back and watch another series about kids dealing with, like, kid things, but it might bore you or you might get lost. So, like, kind of making things that are a little darker but a little more accessible to a younger group.
Right.
Yeah.
I also got the sense of, like, it is darker, but I think it's not always even on the subject matter, although I do think that is, but also just what they're showing. So they never showed death in the original series, but death happened. We all know Ozai killed people, right? That's implied. It just was never seen. In this one, maybe we just saw it more. That doesn't necessarily change what happened in terms of specifics. It's just maybe now we're mature enough to actually see it, as opposed to just implying it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of part of it too.
Yeah. I don't think Avatar ever shied away from those dark subjects either. I mean, there was more episodes, so you had your more lighthearted episodes and you had your darker ones. But like Jet, like that was one in season one. That was one of the early ones that kind of woke me up. Like, oh, this show's gonna like do stuff.
Jet died.
It was never really clear.
And I'm not even talking about Jet dying. I'm talking about the episode where he's introduced, and he's like, I'm going to wipe this town out. You know, and that's really early in the series. I'm like, what? Kids goofing off in the episode before that, Sokka getting covered in snot, and like, oh, now we're talking about genocide. Like,
well, we're talking about genocide right from the get-go. Aang sees the dead monkey out there with all the airbenders.
In long story short, I don't think that Legend of Korra is necessarily darker than Avatar. I think Avatar we saw.
No, I think it is though.
But it is. I mean, like suffocation,
murder, suicide, suffocation, head explosion.
Oh, boy.
There's just as many dark things. There's just also
Fly swatter.
I'm saying that the darkness of it is partially being contributed towards how it being shown, as opposed to not just the subject itself, but actually showing
the scene.
Also, I love the fact that Varric said that when I see a bug or a mosquito, I squash him. And then Hiroshi Sato gets squashed like a bug.
Also, can you tell me about the animation that scene?
You should have known.
He falls off the screen very... I don't want to say comical, because it's a very, like, sad...
We cut the slide whistle.
Is that what... Yeah. That's... Yeah. Can we... Is that a DVD feature when we get the DVD? Like, add it back in?
That's when the SpongeBob will pop up and laugh.
Oh my god, okay.
Oh, you guys got to do a reel of all the deaths, all the horrific deaths in Korra. Set to crazy sound effects.
How do you feel about when that happened? When Korra's falling in that episode in book 1, and they had cut to the SpongeBob thing that he's laughing underneath. What do you think about that?
That make you happy?
It's just the cherry on top of all your hard work.
Well, I mean, it made us feel like we should actually like board with like the safety line. You know, like nothing happens below this because it'll just get bannered.
We got anything else?
Yeah, we got. I know this one's. I mean, I think that we got who Lynn's father was.
Yeah.
And I believe the point of that was to kind of say, hey, these minor details. These characters are beyond that. But popular question is, who is Sue's father?
I don't know.
I don't. So we moved on.
Guys, I have an announcement. I'm Sue's father.
You heard it here first. Sue is a Davis.
Sue Davis. It's weird. It fits in the universe.
Why are the Bayfongs the only ones that
my question was...
That was my question.
Well, and my question, too, is that Sue is married, but she's still a Bayfong.
Yeah. How does name...
Poor yeah, I mean, I think that the whole issue and, like, the whole point with the idea of Toph, with the Kanto story and so forth, is basically to sort of let the fandom know that, like, odds of you marrying someone that you met when you were 8
right,
not as good. Maybe for like our great grandparents, like when they have like one village, and you're only gonna and well, actually, you married them at 8. Like that is a little different. I mean, because even the difference between, because Toph was, like, younger than everybody, right? So she was, like, 10, I think, by the end of the series, something like that.
10, 11,
it's just not a thing. I think that point, like, what we loved is from the get-go, like, being like, yeah, Toph has 2 kids. 2 dads. Like, get it, Toph. Yeah.
Rin, you
I mean,
made
she
joke
didn't
that she
know.
just couldn't see the difference. She couldn't tell the difference.
Oh no!
A horrible joke. You said that to me right after we
I did.
You did.
Oh, that was
That's not
0
true.
viewers.
Yeah.
What time is it actually? Should we
Actually,
take intermission soon?
Sean, what time is it?
I don't know.
Oh,
My
no,
phone's
but you're
over there.
supposed to...
We've been
that
going
was
for
the
over an
question they
hour.
asked us.
Let's ramble off a quick rapid fire answer.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the metal in Korra's body?
What was metal in Korra's body?
It was a type like a mercury.
Okay.
Okay.
Which villain is your favorite?
It's a here.
Favorite villain? Zahir. All right.
Yeah,
We gotta repeat the question, right? We have to-
I'll answer in the form of a question.
Will there be a Korra musical in the style of Newsies or Les Mis?
Oh God! Please say they will.
Those are your only choices.
No.
It has to be one of those.
So will there be a
Will there be
musical
a Korra
version of
musical?
Korra? Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we have to make it.
Yeah, done.
Okay.
It's like Mamma Mia.
I would happily be involved in it if there was.
So which would you recommend,
That
Newsies
technically
or
closest.
Les Mis?
Probably like Newsies.
Jess
I feel.
recommends Mamma Mia.
Ooh, yeah, that could work.
Nah.
Or Camelot,
Jukebox
like a
musical.
comedy. Nuktuk the musical.
Yeah, okay, now we're talking.
Oh my gosh, I have a recording somewhere on one of my old phones of Jim Cummings doing like the Nuktuk theme song, but like messing it up and like, oh, it's so funny.
I bet you could get PJ to do it. He would be down
Oh,
for
PJ
that.
would be great.
Is Kaya your favorite character?
No, I hate. I hate Kaya.
Chris did.
Oh, the only thing I like about Kaya is like this original animation drawing that I saw from Studio Mir, like when she's slamming Zahir down in 305. So she looked awesome there, but other than that, she's useless.
She was. I think we've mentioned a couple times, but she was absent from book 4 entirely, which
She sucks.
Well, you were pretty happy about it, I guess.
It's just so
It's
funny.
so funny that you hear her.
I'm in love with her.
Get it.
I want her to be my girlfriend.
I mean, I did enjoy the fact that like when they were in the Fog of Lost Souls and she's doing the whole like, you can't chain me down, and like running off, like she's this free spirit, and like Tenzin's mocking her, like you have to travel around the world to find yourself. That's pretty
She's
cool.
not very different than like Toph though, in that sense, right?
Yeah, Toph is like strong.
wasn't even the book
All I'm saying is I think you have a vendetta against Kaya.
It's so
I wanna know
funny.
why.
What has Kaya done to you?
Everything, nothing, everything, nothing.
Sean, show me that doll where she tested.
Some responses.
I mean, she just can't be as good as Boomy. The Boomy's awesome.
Well, yeah.
It's like what Ed
Yes,
says.
you, though.
You are not me, and you shouldn't try to be me. It's
Well,
the
that's
same thing. So what do you got against Kaya? You gotta really tell us.
I don't know.
She's a waterbender
I didn't like her.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
Sassy.
I do like waterbenders.
All right, let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
Underrated character, worst character.
Oof.
underrated.
Worst character.
Underrated character.
Underrated
worst
character. What we
Yeah.
know is worst character probably. I don't know, maybe not, but
Potentially guy.
Okay.
So underrated, of course.
But underrated character. Jeez. Shiro Shinobi. Like the announcer from
Oh, yeah.
Why does he have a last name?
because he
I really want an explanation. He's bothered me since Avatar when the Bayfong said it.
It's
Okay.
actually a Bayfong, that's why he has last name.
well, Aang's last name is Henderson.
Whoa!
Like Harry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah.
What a treat.
It's canon.
the Hendersons.
Edit Wikipedia.
So that makes Katara Henderson. Henderson.
Here's my thing. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people that like that wanted Sokka to be Sue's dad. I think that's a common thing. But then like Lin would have been dating like her half cousin, like weirdness. Like so that's just not.
Korra's progressive in the way he has relationships.
It was a different
We
time.
draw the line at
Progressive.
incest.
Yeah, progressive
Except
aggressive.
Eska and Desna, I guess. I don't. They're weird.
Well, how many? Wait, do we have a ton of them?
I
Or?
don't
Well, a lot
know.
of repeats are coming up.
Okay, give us.
Give
Let's
us a
go.
question.
We can go on a break. We're gonna go on break soon. But go ahead.
Okay, here's one. Do you think Nick will continue Avishar without Mike and Brian? If
Ooh.
they do, what do you feel about that?
It's a good
I mean, I don't know that I can comment actually like what will or will not happen. I doubt that anything would ever happen in the Avatar universe without Mike and Brian. And if it did, it would have to depend on. I mean, because I think Brian mentioned
We
in your
talked about
guys'
this
interview
in the
with him, like they have the legal rights to, like they own
Yeah.
it. Mike and Brian do not. Nickelodeon does. So if they chose to, I mean, for me, like, it wouldn't be the same. Do I think that they could get a decent product? It would have to depend on, like, who they could get involved. Right. You know, if Michael Bay takes it over, no.
It'd be tough to get any of the original cast, or any of the original production team, right? If they didn't want to get Mike and Brian. Like, people probably wouldn't want to work on it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's always going to be some people that want to work on it, you know, like...
Right.
So, I mean, I think that they would have no problem staffing it and doing it, but, like... You know, but the issue is, would the fandom follow it? Would, you know, and that's the thing, is, like, you have to know that, like, if Korra wasn't popular enough, or popular in the exact way that they wanted or needed it to be to succeed on television, the reason that it was as popular as it was online is because of the fans, and the fans are there because of Mike and Brian. Like, I've said this, and we were talking about this earlier today, like, I would watch or, you know, read or participate in or be a fan of pretty much anything Mike and Brian do. Like, I think that they are such dedicated and creative people that I have faith in anything that they would be able to create. Right. And I've told them this multiple times to their face, and they kind of like, they're like, stop talking to me.
Hey, sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't see it happening, because I don't think that the network even thinks that they would be able to pull it off without them. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that they would even want to try.
Right.
Yeah. Because there'd be a lot of backlash, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right.
One more.
One more.
Right.
One more. And then we'll go to break.
What does the future hold for Sean Gantka?
Oh, what does the future hold for me? I'm currently working on a really awesome project at Nickelodeon as a production manager called The Loud House. You should check it out. There's actually a short. You can, if you type The Loud House Nickelodeon, like the short of it will come up. It is nothing like Korra. It's the complete opposite world. But one thing, like, I loved working on Korra because it was this amazing product. It was an amazing show and a fantastic crew who I loved to death. And I was always worried that I was going to go from that to, like, working on anything else, because I was like, nothing's going to stand up to this. The Loud House was like a completely different show, but like the product is really cool and it's really fun and the crew is amazing. So I mean, check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely more cartoony. It's like a comic strip that came to life. It's created by Chris Savino, who's been around for a while. He's done lots of fun stuff like Powerpuff Girls and the Mickey Mouse shorts. If you've seen Bad Ear Day, where like Mickey loses his ears, like that was all Chris. Oh, it's so funny though. So good. But yeah, so I mean that's next for me. And like I said, I've got a show that my best friend and partner and I are developing and working on that, and we'll see where that can go.
Great.
But,
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to take a 15-minute break.
15.
So if you guys didn't get your questions answered, your questions for Sean,
Too bad.
Keep them coming. No, we'll be back. But we're going to take this break. We got 2 videos to show you. One of them, it's the new YumChunks project that we're going to do, Mouseology. It's going to be doing a show about Disney that I'm kind of leading on. Before that, do you want to set up your short?
So it's a short that actually was created and done by my partner and I, and it's called Goofy Galaxy Orbiting Gubby. And so, like I said, I worked at Disneyland, and my best friend worked at Disneyland as well. And he came up with this idea about a character that we then developed together and made this short that we put on YouTube. So it's just kind of what it's like to work in a theme park. Yeah, it's about a beaver and his best friend who's a kiwi bird.
Right. Okay. So we're going to cut the feed momentarily, so don't freak out. We're coming back. 15-minute break. Hope you guys enjoy those 2 videos, and then we'll be back to answer more questions and hang out. So see you guys in a little bit.
Bye, guys. Let's go get tacos.
Let's get talk. Well, I don't think there's enough time.
No context. It's okay.
Yeah.
Mic's on. What about...
The countdown timer stopped at 1 second.
We saved the world.
Yeah!
We saved the... We
Saved
saved
the
cheerleader.
Saved the
Hey guys, let's
Too
get down to
many
business.
cookies.
Oh,
The
God.
Huns.
We're
Let's get down to business.
Oh,
Oh, God, why did I start that?
The Huns.
What have you done?
Okay.
Did you send me
Let's
down?
keep going. When I asked for sons, you're the saddest bunch I've ever met. But you can bet before we're through.
John Davis is so angry.
Somehow.
Okay. Welcome back. Are we live?
Yes.
Good. Oh no! All right. What should we do? You guys want to keep going with questions?
Sean, what's your favorite animal?
Peregrine falcon.
What's your favorite
Nice.
What's your favorite
birds.
avatar animal? Double animal.
Turtle duck.
That's a good.
Oh, I like turtle ducks. I think
Turtle
I
ducks
like.
are awesome.
What was the animal that they were riding on in the Sozin's Comet? Sokka and Suki and Toph. It was like a giant
Eel
eel
hound.
Eel hound, yeah.
I want a giant eel hound.
Those scared me. I don't like those. They're creepy.
They're weird.
Uh,
Things that move like that through
Yeah, I
water.
don't like it.
I love
like it.
man, I love them.
All right. Back to the question.
Yes. Okay.
Did they ever consider the permanent removal of bending as the ending to the series?
The permanent. Oh, like the
From
book
the
one. Removing bending from
Maybe
Korra.
that, like, was basically any time during Korra where they're like, maybe we should do like the big finish, like maybe Avatar cycle ends.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's ever a plan to remove bending or completely end the Avatar.
It was never
cycle.
a final like.
I think we
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yeah.
That was a possibility, only in that knowing that this was probably going to be the end of Avatar. Because I mean, and
Sure.
obviously it's not for sure that they won't ever do another Avatar. But we're like, man, wouldn't that be a crazy way to just end Avatar forever?
But I also feel like again, I'm speaking for me, not speaking for Mike and Brian, and I feel like because they know and understand and have such a good relationship with the fandom,
Right.
they know that doing something like that, would completely cut that off. Whereas now, even though they've come out, because I know that you guys were talking, like other people talk that they kind of liked the ambiguity of the ending, and then so for Mike and Brian to come out and say that it's canon sort of changes that a little.
Right.
I think that that's because they were taking a stand for something that they really felt and believed in.
Right.
But for the rest of it, like there's still ambiguity and or
Right,
still
absolutely.
possibility.
Still
And so
open-ended.
yeah, you've got
it-
fan fiction, potentially comics. Like I don't know of any comics
Right.
in the works for Korra, but like so I don't think that there was ever any plans to like shut that down.
We talked about that ending a lot actually in our review, but how, and I think you mentioned it specifically, but how Avatar feels like final, and Legend of Korra ends with like, oh, anything can happen now. Like it's
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was sad in that it was the end because we know it's the end of that, but it's only because of that. Otherwise, it's a really happy, hopeful ending.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that Avatar, the original series, wasn't hopeful, but it had a finality to it, and this
Right.
one I think didn't have that. And I don't know, I really like that.
It helps. It helps therapy. I can
All
trick
right.
myself into
the
thinking it's
healing
not
can
over.
begin.
We end this session with chewing therapy. Next question: was a major character death ever possible? Like I imagine they're talking about main crew.
Was a
Was a
major,
major
character
death?
death ever possible?
I'm sure that it was. I was not privy to it because, like I said, like I was only in the writing room for book 2 and like the top of book 3, and then Katie came back and took over those duties.
Duty. What were we talking about?
Yeah, I don't.
Just trying to think about duty.
I'm trying to think if like in book 2 there's any like discussion of that type of stuff. No, I mean I think that obviously the disconnect from Rava, so basically like the death of the past lives was
Yeah,
probably
that was
the
significant.
biggest one. I think that there was possibly like a discussion like with Mako and stuff like that. I mean, like you guys said in the last episode, like
I feared for him.
yeah,
For real,
I think
for a
there may
second.
have been a couple different possibilities of killing Tonrock. Like he's not obviously like main cast, but
Yeah,
like
that could have been something.
throwing him off the cliff, like. Like I actually, when I first saw the boards, when Unalaq like freezes him up and then like sends that shot of ice like through and like knocks him back, I was like, did that just knock him back or did that go through him and back? Like, is he dead?
All right, this is now that we have someone inside.
Oh,
Okay, you know of our probably mixed feelings about the introduction of Kuira. Do you have any insight, or maybe not? I don't want to say defense because I don't say
like
we're
we're
arguing,
attacking
but
you,
any
yeah.
insight as to the introduction of her that I don't know, at least in my opinion, was a little clumsy at the end of book 3.
are you referring specifically to her like introducing her name? Like, with
Yeah.
Just her line.
Kuvira here.
Yeah, just the way she was like, you can call me Kuvira. And then it just focuses on her face, and that's the end. And you're like, I don't know who this character is. I've never seen her before other than this episode. What?
Which is not true.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we do see her, but
she's one of the dancers when you first go into the Metal Clan city.
Oh, okay.
If you watch, like, you can see, like, her break. She's one of the dancers. She is the one who calls for the domes to be locked down, like, when Opal is first leaving. She's the one who is checking on them in 308 when the Red Lotus attacks. Like, she's the one fighting Zahir, and she's the one that calls for them to surrender when they're surrounded by metal before he lava bends and stuff. She checks on them with the explosion and all that. Like, so she's all of those roles, and then steps in and goes with them. So... Like, I think that her involvement, and I think that the line specifically of, like, I'm Kuvira, you can come, like, that was intentional to, like, set it up so she's not just, like, out of left field, especially because they knew they were going to do the time jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like, to do the time jump and be like, Kuvira rules the Earth Kingdom! They're like, I don't even... Who? So I think they wanted to set that up. I think the read was a little, like, wink, nod, like, you know.
It's been a while since I've seen that episode, but the way I remember it, it's just the camera's just like, look at this person. And she's important.
I think that was to make it, because I feel like if there wasn't that, then... So I think that, like, you know, the complaint is like, okay, they sort of focused on her weirdly and unnecessarily, you know, kind of forcibly setting her up. But then on the other side of it, if you had not had that, and then you have her stepping in as this, like, dictator, people would be like, who is this person? And, like, why did they matter? Like, how did they get into the position to take over?
Yes, but they introduced 4 new characters in Season 3 who ended up being the villains, and have no problem introducing their stories.
Sure. But, I mean, I think that but they weren't as, like... They weren't taking over a nation that had been established and, like, had their... You know what I mean? Like, they were coming out of, like... You know, being in prison and then, like, establishing themselves, and they had been kept hidden. So for no one to know about them, like, makes sense.
I mean, I think that all makes sense. I guess also maybe, like you're saying, we wanted to establish her before, but I think maybe possibly is, like, I would have liked to have seen that maybe more than, like, have her actually be a character, not just a recurring face. Does that make a little sense?
Right.
Kind of?
I think that what it was is that, like, by the time it was decided, like, the direction that Book 4 was going to go, there wasn't time to, like, write her in a whole bunch more. I think that, like, it was only, like, she was sort of in those initial episodes, like, as the dancer and as the guard and stuff like that, and they were still working on the boards for like the 312.
Okay.
So then it was like, okay, we'll make her prominent in this, so that, you know, because we couldn't.
That makes a little more.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of those points that you mentioned where she shows up that I mean,
honestly, I didn't know if I recognized.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine this. I haven't watched Book 3 since before Book 4, so I can imagine watching Book 3 again and going, oh, hey, look. There she is. You know.
Yeah,
she's dancing.
Now I feel dumb, to be honest. I think for me the biggest thing was the fact that her character was introduced before the villains of this season were defeated. Like, all the villains were still fighting. They just the good guys got away from her for a little bit, and they were still there. The threat was still ominous. It was there, and then we get introduced to this character randomly in a moment when you feel like. I wasn't focused at all on any new introductions of characters. I was focused on the battle that was about to take place.
Because I think it was important to introduce her as part of the good guys.
Yeah, I do think that was important
aspect of her character.
Because that was once Book 4 started, like, oh man, what could possibly have happened in those 3 years then? Yeah. Because, and we talked about that, like, last time we saw Kuvira, she's like,
yeah,
right.
And now she's Hitler.
Yeah, and maybe it was just down to the way the camera was, the way the line delivery was, because they could have just, like, if it was like, hey, Kuvira, go that, and like, oh, apparently she's a character. You mean very off the cuff versus like mugging into the camera. You know what I mean? Let's do too many cooks of her.
Anyways, that was a point of discussion that, you know,
we talked about it.
We talked about it a lot, so it's good to get your perspective.
Oddly enough, in 305, like, when, you know, they're doing the dance thing, and then there was in the original boards there was a point where she was like walking off, and Sue says, like, you know, nice job, Kuvira, like, do this a little more, like a little, like, relax more into whatever, but like that just got cut for time, you know, like we're not going to focus on like her dance instructions when we have like
the pivotal to her motivation as a dictator.
That set her in her course. That was it. That was the defining moment.
And yet people mock Hasook for being a fancy dancer, but Kuvira actually is a dancer, and people respect her.
That was a good question because not everybody's like, I gotta go back and rewatch.
Yeah, that was
good.
Well,
Yeah.
good response. It was good. It was
Available on Amazon Prime and iTunes.
Don't pirate it.
I get
Let's
nothing.
get a fun question out there. This one has been asked a lot from the same person.
Control V.
They would like you, any of you, to match up Team Avatar, current Team Avatar, with like superheroes, like Avengers,
okay.
Justice League. Who would be
That's
who?
interesting.
Bolin
Korra would be
is
Superman.
like
Deadpool.
Green Lantern. Oh yeah.
No.
This is Spider-Man.
Derek is Tony Stark.
Okay, yeah, of course, yeah. He's Tony Stark. Mako
Marco's
is...
like a Wolverine. He's sort of like angry.
Korra-
a bit of a loner.
Korra, at least in the book 3 finale, is Hulk.
Yep.
Book 2 finale.
I would say,
3 finale.
just
Well,
in her
yeah.
mindset in terms of fighting, she's the Hulk.
Or just at all, ever, is Korra's Hulk.
Not book 4, but yeah.
I always saw Bolin as a little kind of like Flash. Obviously
Yeah.
not in powers, but in his personality.
Asami is like Iron Man.
I said Varric
Tony
is Iron
Stark.
Man. I think Asami's Batman.
What?
I would say Varric. Well,
Both
I'd say
parents are
Varric
dead
is
now.
probably more of a Batman-y.
Yeah.
Because Asami like actually can like fight and so forth. Varric can make things, but is kind of a wuss.
Yeah, but I can see Varric having a storyline about him being a raging alcoholic. So.
Sure, I could see his parents being murdered.
You can see it.
Mako
That got cut for time.
Mako's Wolverine-ish.
He is a
I mean,
little-
Tenzin's
Yeah.
obviously Professor X.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Only
But
'cause-
walking.
So he's better than him.
God, Professor X sucked. Okay.
Who else? Lynn is Spider-Man.
But we have to do
Yeah,
DC.
We made that comparison. That's true.
Toph is half of the... Never mind.
Wait, what?
So the Avengers. Why am I blanking on his name? Now I feel like an idiot.
Thor?
Hey, it's okay.
No, Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah. Toph is half of
Who else can
That would have been a really funny joke if I'd actually known the punchline I was
No,
supposed to
you're
do.
not offending anyone. They can't watch anyway.
Yeah.
Two.
Or Daredevil, I guess.
Two.
Let's sit here. Have a
Yeah, thanks.
take one consolation prize. You did. You tried.
What else? What
Like
else?
sensu beans?
Okay.
Should I get stronger?
What we got,
Yeah.
Chris?
Why did the writers decide to have such a big time jump between seasons 3 and 4?
Why the time jump, Sean? Why the time jump?
I'm talking to Sean Davis.
That's the question. Sean.
Yeah.
That's the question.
I feel like
Why don't we have Sean Davis try to speculate? And
See how right
How
just say
close
yes
I
or no.
Well, I imagine in those 3 years Korra was married and had a child.
Okay,
and
wait, we're
realized
really
that
doing
she-
this, guys? It
yeah, we're doing this.
doesn't even make sense. Are they going to communicate telepathically? Like,
I think let's see. I think it was just important. Like they wanted to be able to jump ahead and be able to establish enough. Like, and it also like for the difference in Korra, because if you look at the arc and the way that her character went from the beginning of book 3 to the end of book 4, with the whole post-traumatic stress disorder type deal. If they had just gone right into it, like you would have had an entire book of her just
Right.
in physical therapy.
In
And
physical
why
therapy with
it's
Katara.
incredible for her to have gotten over something so dramatic
If she
and
hadn't been dealing
traumatic
with it, yeah.
in like a month. Like, I guess it wasn't that big a deal. But as
Right.
with the 3 years, you could
Right.
tell how to weight to it.
yeah.
I mean, personally, I liked it just because a lot changed in the world in 3 years. It almost, I thought the premiere of book 4 was exciting just because it almost felt like another rebirth of the Avatar universe. Like, yeah, it wasn't as long as the gap between Avatar and Korra, but like, the city's different. There's spirit wilds. The Airbenders have new costumes.
Also,
there's
I
a
think-
train.
There's
a train. Trains are cool.
Which Varric alludes to in book 3.
Yeah, they talk
Yeah,
about it, and then there's a cool train battle. I really like train.
Right.
I like train fights.
Yeah.
You mean fights on trains, not like one train fighting another train.
I've
He wants
seen that
Thomas
one
the
before.
Engine versus
Hey, are there
Kuvira's
Transformer
train.
trains?
Why would they?
I thought about
they
that,
would
but
only
that
have
wouldn't
one
really make
track. Why would
sense.
they
Yeah,
want
they
I
that?
have
don't
to
know, but
build
there
a
should
track
be
as they go.
Transformer trains.
No, that's a
it's
dumb
not.
idea. That's
No, I
just-
want to see Transformer trains.
There's Transformer reptiles.
Yeah, how
and,
there
like,
should be
animals.
Transformer
Which is why
trains.
Transformers is dumb.
I don't know.
No,
There's
I
also a
also-
Transformer hot lady in the second movie.
Okay, which is why Transformers is the greatest thing ever.
So and you just made a diss on Michael Bay. What are you talking about, Sean? Come on.
That guy.
All right, going down the line.
Oh god.
On
The line.
down the line.
On the
Walk the line.
On the line.
Say things.
Put it
On the line.
Say it.
Legend of Korra, Last Airbender, favorites, go.
Favorite.
Favorite what?
Between the two or what?
Between the two.
Okay.
Avatar is the
characters?
best.
Well, they're
Well,
both Avatar.
Avatar's the best. I'm sorry, Sean.
He
Yeah,
prefers
I'm
James
sorry.
Cameron's Avatar.
Okay.
I will say
Gosh, dang it.
You know, look,
I will say Legend of Korra.
I'm gonna say book 3.
I said down the line.
I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say that book 3 of Korra is my favorite season of any of the Avatar universe. Other than that, I say Avatar. That's what I say.
I like
Okay,
that.
that's good.
I like
I'll say my favorite episode, Crossroads of Destiny, has to. So for that, I'm going to give it to Avatar.
I think that anything in Bossing Say, whether it be in Legend of Korra or Avatar, is just like, it's good stuff. Because I really love Bossing Say, especially like the last half of book 2 of Avatar is just amazing. And just all the stuff that goes on in Bossing
Right,
Say,
yeah.
all the character moments. I mean, you have the Tale of Iroh, which is arguably one of the best things that the Avatar universe has ever done. Just so
Yeah.
emotionally touching. And then you have just crazy, ridiculous battles like in the Crossroads of Destiny. And then you can't ask
Yeah,
for
but then
more.
you also have the Dark Knight Rises in book 3 of Korra. So,
Okay, yeah.
so, which is pretty awesome.
Anyways, so Sean, tell us the right answer.
Well, no, I mean, I kind of have to go with Chewie. Like the book 3 of Korra is possibly like my favorite arc. Actually, for me, I have to say that like book 4 initially, I was a little bitter against because I just wanted season 2. Because for those of you who don't know, like season 1 is books 1 and 2, and season
Right.
2 is books 3 and 4. I wanted season 2 to be like 26 episodes a year, like
gotcha.
because like once I got introduced, like that character, there's so much that could have done, and I liked him
He's
so
my favorite
much.
villain too.
I got the hair standing on the back of my neck because like there was someone in a comment who's like, better than that idiot's a here thinking, and I'm like, don't you insult us a here. He's awesome. You know, and so yeah, I mean,
I'm glad they brought it back, at least for a little bit in book 4.
Right?
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
yeah, no, Korra overall, I think. I mean, just because of like kind of the more adult themes. And
Yeah,
the
I mean, I
depth,
think
but-
that's why I'd choose Korra. Just again, I think Avatar definitely has mature themes and does some, but I think just in general, Korra, like you were saying about the philosophical stuff. I mean, to me, it's just like even the season 2, which is my least favorite and arguably a lot of people's maybe least favorite. I think there's still a ton of just really amazing, just philosophical and thematic stuff. I mean, you get the origins of the Avatar there. There's a lot of good stuff, and whether maybe specific plots and some characters we maybe don't like as much. Right. I think it's still just there's a lot of depth and layers to what there is.
Well, but I will say that those layers are that much more meaningful and powerful when you've seen the original series.
No, that's
so like
that's true.
I think
Right,
Korra, either of them in and of themselves can be really strong, but I feel like Korra is even stronger when you know what it's the continuance of.
I would be curious to talk to someone who has not seen the original series and just seen Korra.
Yeah.
And then back to the other version.
Or and seen them in reverse order.
Yeah.
See what they think about that.
Cool.
I do have friends
it's like
that
those
I'm
poor
like,
children that saw episode 1 before they got to see any of the
Oh,
other
no.
stuff.
That's
the end of that
this
discussion,
generation
though.
right now living.
I know.
Can you guys
I'm
accept
sorry
that?
for all of you who got that.
Also, we're just wrapping this all up. I was really quick to jump on. I don't know what I'm.
This question.
Wrapping up this question.
Okay,
not
sorry,
the whole
continue.
thing.
Fabulous
Wrapping up the
Thunderbirds?
question. I was quick because I was the first one to answer. Quick to jump on. Just say Avatar. As an avid fan of the original series, maybe that is.
Don't
and that's-
backtrack. Own your.
Yeah, no,
All I'm
Take
saying
that
is,
decision.
like the mindset of many true Avatar, or many big Avatar fans, they're quick to compare the original series to Korra and just be like, Avatar is the best in every way. Nothing can ever top it, and that's biased and that's unfair. And there's so much good to Korra that people overlook, and they just immediately say Avatar is better in every way, which it's not. I mean, the animation is significantly better in Korra. Brian made a point
Well, oh yeah,
to
absolutely.
make the animation
it's
better.
absolutely much more beautiful.
You can't.
Yeah.
The score. I mean, it's the same guys. Track team's still doing it, but the score is just.
Well, and the backgrounds, I've always said that 75% of the background paintings for Korra I would hang in my house. That's artwork.
Exactly.
That, I mean, not that art outside of or anything on Avatar was not beautiful, but there's something about the style and artistically that's just different. But yeah, I think that it's important to acknowledge both, and like but also to be able to compartmentalize and figure out. What I always laughed at is the people who kind of watched book one and were like, well, the character development wasn't as strong as Avatar. But when you try to introduce someone to Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time, you sort of have to apologize for like, the first like half. You're like, no, I promise you, because you remember how amazing it gets.
Yes.
And it's like,
you gotta push through season one, you know?
Any show has that build-up. I feel that way when I introduce people to Arrested Development.
No,
like I know how hilarious and awesome that show is, and then I try to watch the pilot, and I'm like, ooh.
Well, even the thing is that the exact same thing, but I think I'll be laughing at stuff in the pilot,
right?
That because it's humor that isn't built. You don't understand these characters yet until you've watched it all, and then you can laugh and go, "Oh, it was funnier than I gave." Same with Avatar. Like even if you go back and watch the first 10 episodes, I bet you'll enjoy those now probably more than maybe when you watched the first time.
Yeah.
So,
IGN just put up, I think you shared it, but the top 10 Korra episodes, and going through that again, I'm like, man, I really need to watch Korra again from the beginning, because, like, you know, a lot of people, you know, like you said, they compare the two, and they're like, oh, it's not as good as Avatar, but, like, you really got, like, there's some really great moments in this show.
Yeah, they picked
some really, really great moments.
Was the stakeout in that? Because that's my favorite episode.
No.
Dang it.
I don't
that is
think
the best episode.
That is a great episode. That is.
And there were some great episodes that didn't even...
I have to look.
I amend my answer. I led Legend of Korra. All the way. Legend of Korra is nice.
I don't even want to choose. They chose Avatar 1, or the beginnings, as the top episode of Korra. I mean,
which they said was cheating.
It was cheating. But I do.
Almost
but they're fantastic.
It feels like its own series. Almost. They did a whole other Avatar series in 2 episodes.
This is Conan going off. I'm just curious. What is favorite character through the Avatar universe?
For the universe?
Favorite character. Should we?
Anybody
have one yet?
I have.
It's kind of.
I know what you're gonna choose.
But I Toph was always my favorite in the original series. Like, of all the characters they introduced, I was like, oh man, I'm on board with character, and she was still just as entertaining in Korra. I also really like Asami, but I always have. So
that's because he's in love.
You ship Toph and Asami.
He ships himself in Asami.
I do ship myself in Asami.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Sokka. Seconded by Bolin because he's Sokka 2.0.
Yep.
Sean's gonna choose Bolin though.
I was gonna say the exact same thing you actually said.
Oh,
I was
really?
gonna say Sokka's my favorite character.
Oh, okay.
Followed closely by Bolin because, like I said, I like he's my favorite character of Legend of Korra. Mm-hmm. And I've said it multiple times. He's the heart of this whole I just and actually I really like Korra. Like I think she's easily my third, and I don't know how close, but I don't know. I really like her a lot.
Yeah.
Iroh. I mean, it's hard to say that Iroh isn't one of the greatest characters. I mean, like, whenever I look for, like, any, like, motivational quote or, like, really dramatic scene from Avatar and it's someone speaking, it's almost always Iroh saying something really, like... To Zuko, their conversations back and forth, and the wisdom that he has, it's just like, I use that in real life. And it's,
there's also that little moment he has with Toph, too, where it's just like, man, everybody gets this little moment with Iroh, and
that's why
beautiful.
The book 2 finale of Avatar, when he talks to Aang for, like, the first time, and he has a real conversation. Aang and Iroh are my 2 favorite characters. Aang, for no really logical reason other than the fact that he's the hero of their Avatar series.
That's a good reason.
I mean, but I don't think that's fair. Just because someone's the hero.
It's your favorite.
Aang is my favorite.
Aang is awesome.
Aang is great.
Yeah,
it's just he's not a crazy deep character.
This is a difficult question to answer because there's a lot of great characters.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Aang is kind of.
I think in a question like this, it doesn't come down to necessarily the logic thing. It comes down to what do you just have an emotional impact.
That's why I like Aang and Katara together. And people are like, "No, you're dumb. That's too easy. It should be Katara and Zuko." And it's like, well, I like Aang and Katara together. They got good chemistry.
Well, I mean, guys only want love if it's torture. So it's.
She can blood men.
Why do fools fall in love?
But we didn't hear
I
from
just
you.
quoted Tay-Swift.
Sean,
I mean, it's got to be meat and sarcasm guy. Like, I mean, Sokka from the get-go was always, you know, for me, it's anything like just from his characterization to the arc that his character takes. To the stupid humor of, you know, I know his name, Rocky. You know, like, that's one of my favorite episodes.
When he gets stuck in that hole.
Right.
That is, like, the best.
Followed by, you know, naming Fufu Cuddly Poops. I mean, come on.
Now, Boomerang, come back.
Right. So good. Boomerang, you came back.
We all love that.
He's so good.
You guys, we all love
no, it's good. And then, I mean, Bolin, you know, in the segment, but Varric is
Yeah.
fantastic.
I actually really
like,
like
I
Varric a lot.
love.
Yeah, I think I actually disliked him initially. Like he definitely won me over.
Well, because he
Yeah.
was much more of a scout. Like he wasn't quite the rogue that you loved at the first in season 2. He was a little bit more despicable. Like
He's a little sleazy.
He's a little sleazy and greedy, so it wasn't until season 3 when he started to turn. And
He's the Han
obviously season
Solo.
4 he had a huge
I love that moment, and it was like for me, it was resolution for everything. Not that I even needed character resolution from him, but when they were like, "Wait, didn't you rob us? Didn't you blow up?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah."
My favorite has always been like I own that building. Like a man has the right to blow up his own property. What do you want from me? Just like no, so good. But I mean, Iroh has always been a big one. In fact, fun nerd fact and moment for me. Book 2, when Korra is leaving the spirit world, or is leaving Iroh, and he says, "Come visit me in this life or the next." This guy. In this life or the next was like my suggestion as we were punching up the script, and it was like, "You guys actually like that idea?
That's so
You're
cool.
keeping it?"
So
yeah, that made me so happy.
That's a perfect segue into our next
Oh
question.
god,
Give us the next
Yes.
question.
yes, Korra was my idea.
What's something you wanted to see in Korra that never made it into the show?
What is something you want to see?
This will be a fun. Okay, so Hasook.
Milo is from the future.
No, wait. So like I said, I was the script coordinator for book 2. Once we started, so book 1 was written all by Mike and Brian, and then for book 2 they brought in Josh and Tim, and so we actually had like a writer's room, and I took over the script coordinator. And when they were just coming up for the concepts of book 2 and figuring that stuff out, they knew that they wanted some sort of conflict between the water tribes. And so like the idea of a civil war was a possibility, and like they're bandying about like a couple different ideas. And there was one point in time where I was like, hey, well, what if it was just centered like in Republic City, and you have kind of like the northern waterbenders are like mistreating the southern waterbenders, and like there's some sort of like disharmony there, and Korra obviously identifies with the South. And I was like, but what if you have, Hasook is also of the Southern persuasion, and he and Korra end up getting close because they identify not in like a shipping way, not like make him her boyfriend.
Look, I want you to make my character Korra's
Well, no, but here's the thing.
I don't care how you do it.
But this is the problem. So I was genuinely pitching it. I was like, so what if? So say that you have, so Hasook is like, hey, Avatar, like, you need to help, like, your southern brethren, like, these northerners are being mean, and so they generate, like, a bond, which obviously then causes conflict between her and Mako, because he hates Hasook. So if, like, if she's like, no, this, like, he is my people, like, this is how our group is being treated, you don't understand that, there's that natural conflict with the relationship there, and, like, so I'm pitching this idea, and they're like, no, that could... Hey, wait a second! And I'm like, no. Like, it's a genuine pitch. It's not just because. Oh man! So close. I know. So close. So that's something I really wanted to see. It's more for Hasook, but like I said, his music career went just fine.
Okay.
Another perfect segue into the next question.
Oh jeez.
Was Hasook the real leader for the Red Lotus?
The real leader for the Red Lotus?
The Red Lotus lives. It's still...
Yes. Actually, he's Zahir's son. With a waterbender from the southern water.
Katara.
Yes.
You want to know what happened in those early years.
So many stories are untold.
I can see Hasook joining the Red Lotus.
But being the leader?
Maybe. I
Found it all.
mean, he might be. Maybe he'll be the puppet leader from this point.
That's kinda
Zahir will just
interesting.
Rule him.
What we talked about a little bit in the front is stuff that never really showed up in season 4, and I'm curious if how much of it was just completely planned from the outset of what the arc of season 4 is. Things like, obviously, the spirits didn't play a huge role in terms of, like, the spirit and the beings themselves.
Yeah, we had an episode about it.
Yeah, or, like,
Right.
the Red Lotus never came back. And even in the end of season 3, like, there's still Red Lotus members out there. But that,
Right.
I'm not saying that they should have, but I'm curious, was there any of those other kind of elements that were ever a part of
You
book
thought
4?
about playing with, or...
Well, that I mean, again, like because I wasn't in the writers' room for like
that's right.
book 4 and stuff. Like I don't know the specifics of it, but I would guess that again, not canon, me guessing. I would guess that a lot of those are sort of left. Like with the spirits, I feel that the idea was that they didn't want just book 2 all over again.
Yeah.
So they didn't want, and the Spirits sort of like laid out pretty clearly. They're like, hey, we're not getting involved with that. Like, we're going to coexist in this area, but you're not using us as a weapon, jerk. Like, that's not a thing. And then as far as the Red Lotus thing, like, I feel like leaving that open ended, like, allows for, you know, future stuff, whether it be just future fan fiction or if they take it in a different direction. Like, I mean, it leaves the possibility for, like, you know, what if, like, in the future there is an Avatar who is then raised by, you know, successfully captured and raised by the Red Lotus. Like, what happens with that? Like, where does that go? Which I think would be really
would be really cool. I think a lot of these kind of things that we're talking about, these open ends, I think goes a long way to making the world feel very alive and living. That like we don't have to close up every single thing with a bookend. Say, oh, this nice little bow on that one, put that away. It's everything's open. It's like that's how things are kind of in the real world. You know, you have all these open threads that can lead to anything.
Right. Yeah. You don't need a nice little bow or a nice little bowline because there's not really
I will say that
fancy ending for him.
I think one of the things that makes, and this is just a personal thing, the new Avatar comics that are coming out for the original series makes them feel less like they don't have as much driving force to the stories, is the fact that I know it has a limited amount of time before it closes the gap entirely on where Korra starts. And so it's like, this amount of time, like, I already know where the future is. The future of Korra, it could go forever now, because we don't have another, there's nothing at, like, past Korra. Right. So if there was a new comic series for Korra, I'd be much more on board with it and be like, ooh, where's this gonna go?
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much to cover. Like, I mean, because the ones that are happening right now, like, Aang and Zuko are still... What in their 20s?
They're not as old as Korra.
You know, like you still have all the way. Like there's still another 20 years before you get to like Yakone even, and then another like 20 years beyond that before death. Like, and what I would love to see actually, like I would be interested to see, like a Red Lotus story, like you know where Zahir got started and like how they trained.
Well,
and
the history of the White Lotus too, and
exactly. Like I think that'd be way cool. I think, and then to tie it into something that exists, seeing their attack in an attempt to take Korra, watching those 4 together, you know, fighting Sokka and Tonrak and Zuko and you know Tenzin and stuff like that. I mean, because what's weird at that point is that like you know those 4 and Zahir without being a bender like beat. You know, like them almost, like they were close, and it's like to the point that everyone's so afraid of them now that like it took everybody who's anybody, and like you know we've discussed like Sokka didn't make it.
He didn't make it.
Or at least didn't live very long after it. Like it's you know, because that was weird for me even like to consider because I knew that Sokka was gone, but like knowing that Sokka was alive during Korra's lifetime, like was always you know interesting to me.
That was so
Speaking on your note, I actually saw this really cool picture that I didn't post, but I kind of really wanted to on DeviantArt of Osama playing Paisho against Iroh in the Spirit Realm. And I was like, oh man, I should post that, but I didn't.
I wanted so badly for there to be a moment, and I actually suggested it to Brian to do like an illustration. And I drew it on a Post-it note in my little stick figures, and his response was, "Well, I don't need to draw it. You've already drawn it."
Oh yeah.
So it's there, but it was the moment that Korra approaches Zuko and is like, "Hey, I have to ask you this question. Like, your uncle told me," and he's like, "You spoke to my uncle?" Like, so then in my head, I'm like, now Zuko needs to go to the spirit world and like have tea with Iroh. Like, he can actually go and like commune with his uncle. And so I drew like this little like stick figure version of like hunched over old Zuko like having tea with Iroh like on a mushroom spirit.
The thing is that could totally happen, right? I mean, like it's
I
open ended
assume that
enough.
happens,
Did you question?
Okay.
Question for you.
Question.
When are we asking Sean questions?
I know, you're right.
This is,
I
don't know.
Were you hoping that we would see what the Fire Nation looked like in Korra, and we never really got a chance to?
I was hoping. I wanted to see what it looked like.
For me, like, because I think that one of the ideas with Korra was to actually keep it more Republic City-ish originally. So I never really thought that we were going to see much of the rest of the world. And I think that the only reason that we even like explore, you know, into the Earth Nation or the Earth Kingdom is because of like the Airbenders, but then also like the Kuvira conflict and like setting that up, and then like Korra being from the poles, and like that's just sort of where the portals ended up being.
Yeah.
So like I don't feel like there was I don't know that aside from we did see part of the Earth Nation or the Fire Nation.
When she gets
when she's on that
amnesia.
island. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That's
And
Fire Nation,
Azula takes her. We never said that. It was never proven it wasn't. Did they ever say it wasn't?
I don't
She
think
has the
so.
same hair thingies.
Does she?
has the hair
Oh, I never
thingies.
noticed that.
I guess
Yeah.
the only reason I wanted to see it is just because like the Earth Kingdom is now the driving force of technology in the Korra universe, just based off of what we've seen. And
but
the
Fire
Fire
Nation
Nation
was
was
all-
the driving force in Avatar, and they were just like generations ahead of everybody with their technology at that point.
Well, but they were also funding like an Earth Kingdom person. Like the inventor guy was,
Yeah, that's
was
true.
an Earth Kingdom guy.
Yeah,
So it was
I
actually
guess
like
technically they
yeah.
were. I just wanted to see if they were like keeping up with everybody. I'm sure that they were, but I just
I mean, they had, obviously a navy and an army and
Yeah.
whatevs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, like it never felt like there was like a really organic way to see that. It would have felt
like fan service, and there's no reason to do it then if it's not
Yeah,
organic.
and it would have
so I
just
got
like
you.
removing it. Like I liked that a lot of it focused like on Republic City because that did take it to a different place from Avatar. Like Avatar: Last Airbender was all about traveling the world.
Yeah.
And this was about dealing with stuff that like specifically dealt with like Korra and Republic City.
Oh, what did you think about my idea of like it was one of Kuvira's plans? What did you think about my idea? It was great. No,
Did you pitch this to the?
it was something that we had speculated about for a long time. About was Kuvira's like overall goal, and one of my thoughts was that she would actually want to kill Korra so that the next Avatar would be brought up in the Earth Kingdom, and she could raise the Avatar because it's her. It's her republic. It's her Earth
Yeah, I
Kingdom.
thought that was a good
empire.
idea.
I don't
And
even
she
think
would-
I didn't hear that.
She
But
could, if she killed Korra and had her Earth Empire, she could raise the Avatar with her goals in mind.
yeah, basically achieve exactly what Zahir was trying to do.
And I
with her
thought
own
that's
ideals.
what Kuvira's
Yeah.
goal was going to be.
Sure.
But-
I mean,
and I was
I don't know
hoping-
that was explicitly, thought of, but definitely, like, I think that type of motivation, take over, the Earth Kingdom, and then, but I mean, and not even, but I don't think that she would have wanted the Avatar in the same way that, like, Azulon wanted, Roku to like be the Fire Nation's Avatar and help take over the world. I think she would have just wanted the Earth Kingdom, Avatar to like defend and let the Earth Kingdom be what the Earth
She would
Kingdom
have wanted
is.
to
Like,
be like a Superman of the Earth Kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
And I never got the sense that Kuvira ever wanted to kill Korra throughout the season anyway. She didn't even seem like Korra was a blip on her radar. That's
Plus,
kind of how she treated her.
I feel like Korra would be afraid of raising a child. I mean, Kuvira would be afraid of raising a child.
Yeah, that's true.
She doesn't strike me as the maternal
Make
type.
Batar Jr. do it.
He is very
That
maternal.
was an excellent question from Vince because that was actually on our list.
Hey.
Oh.
Nice.
I don't remember what the question
Yes or no
was.
question. And the picture of Sue's circus is the guy sitting on the ground with one ostrich, horse, Barrick. I don't know. The question was kind of badly. There was. I do remember there was a picture.
I remember
of
that
the
picture.
circus.
Oh yeah, wait, was Zahir in that picture?
Was that supposed to be Zahir?
Do you know which picture we're talking about?
I know the picture you're talking about. I don't remember it off the top of my
circled it
head.
with,
I'd
look,
have to
Zahir.
look.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't know
remember
Sue
that.
was
So
they
they
knew each
kept
other.
theorizing that there's going to be backstory with Zahir and Sue,
And then, that Sue was going to be evil.
and obviously it didn't
Huh.
matter. But
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, all right.
I
It could have been Varric because he was taken away by circus people.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
I love.
I'm
just
sad
one-off line,
the
just-
the Mrs. Beak story was
Never, yeah.
originally longer.
Never,
Like, he
that,
was-
that plot was never resolved.
Well, the story was that he had Mrs. Beaks and he loved her, and then he was going like then he sold her to forgot the guy's name, but someone Sticky's like he was a glue salesman. But it was to pull his cart. So like there's
Been
to
fantastic.
pull his cart, and he's like, but I always took it for granted. I never appreciated it, but. And a lot of people felt like there wasn't much growth, and like there was actually a lot of commentary about, Varric still kind of being this misogynistic character because he expects Julie, because she's a woman, to be subservient, and I was like,
I never
for
got
me,
that this was a woman.
exactly, because he treated Bolin the same way. Like, I feel like he's just this oblivious, eccentric guy who needs, but the thing is, he fully recognizes that he needs Julie to function. Like he's
Right.
this
Yeah.
brilliant mind, but without him or without
They spent half
Julie,
a season 4
like
saying
he's
that.
nothing, and he does grow. And like, but I mean, a decent point that they made was that in their wedding vows, she's like, "I just want to be loved and be your equal," and he's like, "I just want you to rub my feet and do all that," and like have this like list of like duties that she needs to do because now instead of just assistant, she's wife.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, I get that, but I don't think that it's from a misogynistic standpoint because I don't think he's doing it because she's a woman. I think he's doing it because
He's just-
he can't
he's
do
a
anything on his
doofus.
own.
I think
Yeah.
also too. I mean, because Varric is such a comedic character, I think at a certain point, like you have to kind of suspend disbelief, or not. Maybe that's not the right term, but you know what I mean. And to, like, he's not all of a sudden going to be, "I respect you now." Like,
Sure.
you like that. You had to fit his character, and in so doing, I still think he did come along.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, the only comment that I read along those lines that I actually agreed with and felt was interesting was Milo. Because some of those comments were about
I
like
read the same
Milo.
thing. It was
Because I
interesting.
feel part of Milo, because they were talking about that, Milo taking credit for their mission and not giving any credit to his sisters because he's the boy and blah, blah, blah. To me, again, none of that had to do with the fact that he was a boy and they were girls. That had to do with the fact that he's an 8-year-old and he's like, I'm an adult now, so he's trying to prove himself
Right.
as like, in the same way that like, I mean, Janora never like went that far, but she was constantly trying to like get the recognition in book 3 of like, hey,
Yeah.
I get my tattoos now, right? Like I've achieved this next level. I'm an adult now. I'm a master. So he's very much like, look what I did. I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Adult, not
I
just
mean,
little boy.
Also, Milo, if he was an 8-year-old kid, he's kind of a jerk. But he gets away with it because he's an 8-year-old kid and it's funny.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's also just part of his personality. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a little bit of a jerk.
But I do agree that there were a couple moments where he was like, well, I don't know about like these ladies or like these girls
Yeah.
don't know anything. Like, and it were kind of iffy comments that then weren't like corrected by like any adults who were present
the-
to be like,
I mean, okay, there.
compared to where you have like Sokka like, oh well, that's ladies' work, and Katara is like,
shows
F
he gets
you!
Right.
comeuppance because of it.
Right.
Right, but I think as an
so does that.
8-year-old little
Come
boy,
up and
I think
this is-
that's how an 8-year-old little boy would treat his sisters. I don't
Right.
think that's not
Well, I think-
PC. I think that
Sure.
is how.
But I think that their comment
would be.
was that the rest of the show was so
Didn't react to
responsible
it.
with dealing
Oh,
with
right.
those things that
Oh.
like
It was
taking those
weird
things that would be like, it's normal for a boy to be like, hey, darning socks is like your lady work, right? And like, oh, he's just the boy saying that to his sister, but his sister's like, shut your face, like, and puts him in his place, which establishes that in this world, like, and from the mindset of the creators, like, sure, little boys are going to say those things about little girls, but in this world, they're going to get put in their place. And so I feel like the only argument along those lines that I've seen that makes sense is the one with Milo. Like, I don't view,
Right.
Varric as misogynistic.
it's
I don't,
interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
I understand.
Next question.
Okay.
How long are we going?
I don't know. What time is it? As long as we
we're
guys...
approaching 2 hours total. I don't know.
What time
It's almost 8.
What? We started at 5:30, right? I mean,
7:40. 7:40. Yeah.
We came back at 7 though, so if we want to, we'll go for another 15 at least.
Good at
Oh, do we, Sean? Did you ask the viewers anything? Do you want to ask them something?
no, he doesn't want to do that.
Korra
That's
versus-
good, but that's
Korra
good.
versus Elsa. Who wins?
Korra.
Is that the actual
Are you kidding
question?
me?
There's
What?
an actual question in there. asking-
Korra, because they can
doesn't say.
both bend ice.
Yeah, and she has an
Anything that
answer.
Elsa can make, Korra can destroy, and then
But Elsa can sing.
Korra's bending can't make dresses / make snowman come alive.
she could.
She created.
She
one.
doesn't have the power of quickening.
She did create life, but Korra can then create fire, which makes that life melt.
But no,
Like
that is-
Marshmallow wouldn't be able to do much.
that is a good point. If you have questions, or do you have questions for the audience, fans,
Not
people?
yeah.
Maybe you don't have to,
I'm
but
prepping. I don't know. Like I liked Mike and Brian's questions about like
Yeah.
figuring out
Oh.
how the
Were we supposed to read some?
we
of
were
those?
supposed to read those.
we lied.
We'll put them on the
Put them on
internet.
the line.
On the
That's the thing, right?
internet.
You can put them on the internet.
Next
Why does
question.
that
Next question.
exist?
Okay.
Dinnernet?
Do you think Boomy becoming a
He's on
bender
top.
lessened his development as a capable non-bender? Because he was he was leader of like the army and stuff. He was
Yeah, but
very
No, because I
good
think he was.
non-bender.
I think he was well established as a capable non-bender.
Right,
I think, for me, one of my favorite episodes, is that episode in book 2 when he like takes out the whole camp, and you realize that all of his like cockamamie stories like are probably true.
Right.
Like when he's like, well, my trusty flute, and you're never mind. You're not gonna believe it. So, like, when he starts all of his, like, like hurricanes and hog monkeys and, you know, parachuting in, like, you're like, dude, he's a totally capable non-bender. I mean, I think that, I mean, I can see where that question is coming from, like, that he does lose a little something in being a capable non-bender, but I feel like you still have the representation of that in Asami. You know, like in Asami being a case, so she keeps it going. Yeah.
There's great non-bender characters in the show.
I mean, also, I think his arc at the end of season, he was resolved. He made peace at the end of season 2. Like, it'd be one thing if he hadn't made peace with Tenzin and Aang and, you know, the relationship at the end of season 2.
Right.
And then he became a bender and was able to. But because he reached that resolution, and I think before that, I think it's so, like, you know, it doesn't interfere with that arc, I don't think.
Not to mention, his first time we ever see him, he's introduced as a commander. I mean, like, I don't think you can argue that he's not capable from the beginning.
Right, he wouldn't have become a commander if he was an idiot.
Well, but, I mean, Aang
he won the
let
leadership award twice.
True, but Aang wouldn't have let any of his kids become, like, janitors, so he would have forced them to become something important.
Aang was
He would have forced them to be.
He would have forced them. If we learned anything at the beginning of book 2, it said Aang was a horrible dad. Yeah. He was neglectful, and he only cared about Tenzin.
Alright.
Man, I love that.
I mean, it kind of makes sense that Katara was the only good parent, like, of the original group.
It does.
Like, Sokka wasn't one at all, and then that we know of.
Soup.
Okay, I'm gonna have to read this one.
That's fan service.
This may be random, but was it coincidence that Asami starts with an A, like Aang, and Korra starts with a K, like Katara, and they got to be a couple?
So the question is whether the initials of Korra and Asami tying to Katara and Aang was a coincidence.
Yes.
Yes.
I realized that.
I would say that, it absolutely was.
They're going to write a blog about how it was intended.
Because again, originally in book 1, like Brian had said, like Asami was supposed to like
Be a bad guy.
be like a spy and a bad guy, but then as they were writing, then they brought her back around. So she was named Asami and was going to be a bad guy before there was ever any possibility of them ending up together. Now, his original name was going to be Akko, so it couldn't. Akko.
That's trolling.
Then it makes sense, because Mago is in remembrance of the voice actor for Iroh.
Which is Mako. but
Alright,
it's-
Sean,
it's
time to make
always-
some enemies.
Oh god.
Who was your favorite person to work with on production?
My favorite person to work with on production? Like I said, you know, earlier, working with that crew was awesome. So I honestly, like, it's not just me, like, hey, blah, blah, like, I love everybody. You know, like, the entire crew that worked on it, because we shared in our fandom of both the Avatar series and the Korra series and a number of other like anime series. Like, we were all big fans of like Gurren Lagann and Cowboy Bebop and like some of those classic series. Not a fan?
But everything else
Drill through to the stars.
We'll talk about it later.
Right. No, but like, you know, but I mean, I made some really, really good, you know, friends like working on the show, and there's some people that have really impressed me. You know, like looking at some of the action storyboarding of like someone like Eugene Lee, is, you know, like he had some sequences that were amazing, and then obviously like Joaquin and Ryu and Lauren and seeing what they were able to do. Being in the writer's room with Tim and Josh and Mike when I was the script coordinator there were days that like I didn't stop laughing, you know, like it was just a lot of fun to like see the way that creativity works and stuff like that. You know, and I used to love hanging out with our background painters like during book 1 and 2, or Fred and Emily, because they had this like cubicle that they didn't have like individual cubicles, they sort of had this giant one that had 2 desks, and like I just sort of wanted to be a fly on the wall because they're two extremely talented artists, but they're also 2 of the most quick-witted people that I've ever known. And so like just to like sit there and watch the 2 of them and listen to them go back and forth like is so funny. And Emily has become one of my, you know, closest friends, and and like Chris Palmer and Sean O'Neill like are good buddies of mine, and Bill, and there isn't a single person on that crew that like I didn't enjoy working with and that I wouldn't want to work with again. And that's completely genuine. That's not common. Like, I've had plenty of other jobs, I've known people on other shows that are like, yeah, I'd love to work with most of these people. But, you know, like, and that's just the nature of the beast. Like, that's how most jobs work. That's, you know, so I've felt extremely lucky and blessed to like everybody.
Yeah. I believe that.
But you gotta choose one. Gotta choose
I mean, it's just through the quality of the show, though. I mean, if everybody works well together, everyone likes each other, then you're going to make a good product.
Yeah.
So I believe that.
We'll go Benjamin Kaltenegger.
Then how do you explain
Because
that?
he was a good friend, he was a good mentor on Tommy, and he left his job, which opened up production manager for me to move up.
There you go.
So,
Hey,
of course. You send him a Christmas ham every month, in fact. Doesn't even make sense.
And Mike for allowing me
I
to audition and be cast as Hasook.
I stopped paying attention for a second.
Because I just started as an IM. I was like, hey, can I...
Oh, really? That was Mike?
Hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to read, you know, an audition for a character, and he's like, well, hypothetically, you know, which one would hypothetically you be interested in? That was fun.
Question for me, real fast.
Okay.
What was it like working with Joaquin Dos Santos? Because like I grew up with a lot of like his stuff.
Oh, man.
Animated.
I thought you were going to ask Steve Bloom, but
Oh, yeah.
Steve Bloom is rad.
I can only imagine. I've met him a couple times at cons. Like I know he's rad.
He's such a good dude. Like, that guy, I think during book one, when he was recording as Amon, during book one alone, he sent like 3 gift baskets to the crew that was just like, thanks for letting me work on your show.
What?
Actually, it's Steve Bloom's would be like, thanks for letting me work on your show.
Joaquin does.
Like, oh yeah, but so Joaquin, man, that guy is awesome. Like, he is, it's so much fun because he is so ridiculously talented and hardworking and just has this mind that like works on another level as far as like planning out the action sequences and understanding like how these things go. But at the same time, like, he's totally a fanboy. Like, he, you know, like, he has his shows and his things that he grew up with that like he loves, and like he loves like video games, and he loves like old school toys, and like his, you know, office is full of like really cool like vintage toys and stuff like that. And like he's so cool, like, and he has such an interesting story too, that like basically like discovered in a comic book shop. You know, like, he sort of has that, like, they should make a movie about, like, how he was discovered, because it was just like, someone drew this in your comic shop? Like, get this man a pencil! And he's just so good, like, and he works really hard, and he's super respectful of the people that he's working with, and he values what other people are bringing to the table. That's what I like a lot about the way that, you know, Mike and Brian ran things, and Joaquin and Lauren and Ryu, like, how they kind of oversaw everything, is that, like, everyone that was working on the show brought something to the table. And so it wasn't just them telling people exactly how to do things. It was like, you do your thing, and then they'll just plus it and add to it, which is why the process, you know, made for such a high quality product. I mean, we made feature quality animation on a TV timeline and budget, and, you know, like, it's,
yeah, absolutely.
which is insane looking at.
Yeah, I always like, man, I knew he was a fanboy. Just the way, like, that final episode of Justice League Unlimited, I don't know if you ever saw it.
Totally, yeah.
When, like, Superman just, like, lets loose on Darkseid.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and when you watch, like, anything that he did with G.I. Joe, too, like, because he was such a big G.I. Joe fan as, like, a kid, so getting to do that, or, like, the designs that he did for the Thundercat reboot, like, you know, like, yeah, Joaquin is ridiculously talented and just a really cool... He's another one, like, as much as I said, like, I would follow Mike and Brian, like, anything that they're doing, anything that Joaquin is involved in, like, I'll happily, like, support. Like, I know it's going to be good no matter what.
all right, back to the fan question.
Okay?
Fair questions.
You're a fan, that was a question.
Yeah.
It's true.
Korra versus Captain Planet. Go.
Korra versus Captain
Captain
Planet.
Alright,
Planet.
no more fan questions.
Well, no, I assume you mean the Don Cheadle Captain Planet.
Right. But with
In which case, Don Cheadle
Sokka...
champ.
With Sokka not there, like, we're missing Heart.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's Asami, right? Asami is Korra's Heart.
Which brings us to the next question.
Oh no! I don't
Who has a heart?
What kind of thought process led Asami into turning her feelings toward Korra into romantic ones, or was she always attracted, and that's why she cut her slack during the romance triangle in season 1? Well, I guess that last part doesn't really matter.
Well, it's interesting to me that, like, once you know about it, like I said, I went back and rewatched. I made it all the way to episode 312. Like, I started rewatching it like 2 days ago to, like, prepare to, like, have a series
Did
discussion.
you skip Christmas or what? Like,
And man, you didn't need to prepare.
Oh no,
that
I guess it was like 3 or 4 days ago. Anyway, but like I spent 2 days basically like watching through a bunch of them, and like it's interesting to me because I feel like I'm reading too much into it. But like when you watch like the moments in book 1 where like Asami is like jealous of Mako and Korra, they're like, now which one is she actually jealous of? But I honestly think that like I feel like it's one of those things that it did develop. Like I don't think it was something that she was always like, I'm into Korra. Like I think it was like, oh, this girl's cool, but then like you sort of figured that out. I mean, and there's people like if you really pay attention, like there's the type of relationship that develops because like you're out somewhere and you're like, that person's hot, and then they're like, you're hot, and then like you make out, and like that's
those are
right
relationships. No, season 1.
You know, but then there's other ones that it's like you know someone.
What?
That's his girlfriend's off screen.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that Bolin was a stockbroker before you hired him?
That Bolin was a stockbroker?
You hired Bolin? Can you explain that question?
PJ Bird?
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, was PJ Bird actually?
Yeah,
he was working on Korra before Wolf of Wall Street, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Wait.
Yes, because Wall Street.
Yeah, because he's been with us since 2010.
Yeah, so definitely.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There are a lot of questions about the voice actors, but I have to assume you probably didn't get a lot of like one-on-one time with them.
I mean, I know a lot of. I mean, PJ is one of my favorite people.
Okay,
I love PJ.
This one's about JK.
Okay.
He's just wondering, like, did you talk to JK and all any interesting stories?
He thinks I'm funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Told that story earlier.
That's totally interesting.
Did he ever?
No,
smash the
JK's
dresser?
he's a
Did he
really
ever throw a symbol at your head?
no, but he's a really good guy. Like he's just really cool. He's a big Detroit Tigers fan, which I learned. So he's a baseball fan, so that's good. No, I mean he's a really genuine person, and he's very, very good at what he does. So kind of watching him work was really cool. Like the voice record sessions like end up usually going like super fast because like they're all such professionals and like so good at performing. And for those that don't know, like voice acting is not easy like at all because you have to be able to convey everything without being seen. So it sort of like takes it to this like other level. I mean, if you guys have not seen it already, watch the I Know That Voice.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Saw that on Netflix.
Yeah, it's the documentary that John DiMaggio did on Netflix. So good. And like everybody who's like huge in the industry like is in it because you have like Greg Griffin and a lot of the voice directors and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Like
Adriana Romano was in it too. Like,
Adriana Romano is in it. Lisa Schaefer's in it, who's another.
It was really, really good for people that are interested in voice acting.
Yeah, no, if you're interested at all in it, like, check out I Know That Voice.
Tips. Like I remember once John DiMaggio says like you put a pencil up to your mouth so you don't like blow.
Oh, totally. Like understanding how to use your instrument. Like, for example, talking to D. Bradley Baker. Like doing anything from where you've got Tarlock, where it's basically just Dee's voice. And then doing all the animal voices. Like Pabu, he actually does he has like a duck call, like an out call for hunting. And he puts it in his mouth and creates a second voice box basically inside his mouth to get the higher pitches to make the little chittering noise.
Wow.
The man is a genius when it comes to like recreating things. And like even within the, you've got Jeff Bennett when he talks about doing Smee, that like, if you talk like this, Captain, we should, you have the nasally, but if you hold your cheek like this, you sound a lot more like him. Like it's so interesting that like, and that's the thing is like if you really want to go into professional voice acting, like you have to know how to use your instrument, and you have to like maintain it, and it's super hard work. Like I don't actually do that. Like voice acting for me is something that I do for funsies on the side, like just because. And I don't actually treat my instrument the way that I should. Like, I force my voice down because I think I sound like an idiot. Because if I talk in my natural connection, like, this is what my voice should sound like, but I think I sound high and silly, so I actually talk down here. Like, so I, like, the voice that is my voice, like, is, but it's not good for my voice to talk out of my connection.
Sean,
so, like,
we want you to be yourself. Be yourself.
Yeah.
But then I sound silly.
We all sound silly.
We got like 5 minutes left till 8.
Okay, well, what do you guys? How are you guys feeling? What do you guys want?
The person who wrote this says it's the most important question of the whole
Oh.
Avatar universe.
Well, then we have to definitely.
We already
do
found
this.
out who would win in a putting any contest. Go watch the Mike and Brian interview.
Yeah.
Abu or Momo?
Whew.
That's a good
Momo.
question.
Ooh, Momo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or who would win in a fight?
Or is it
Who
just like
tastes better, Pabu or Momo?
I would say Momo probably tastes better. Sokka was ready to eat him. Nobody tried to eat Pabu.
Meat.
Yeah.
Naga did.
No, that's true.
103.
Dang it.
What's
Yeah,
happening?
I'd say Momo.
No.
All right, well, dinner's here.
Momo doesn't.
Oh, well, there's pizza.
That's pizza.
Let's. How many questions left do we have left?
We burned through our stack.
I guess, hey, Sean,
Yeah.
what was it like when you first started watching Korracast? Because, hey, you watched Korracast.
Yeah, tell us the
How did you
history of
discover
our friendship.
How the heck are you here?
I don't even know how I discovered Korracast. I think I was just like trolling YouTube at one point in time.
Yeah, you're like, who are these idiots?
Um,
Oh, they're dumber than I
But
thought.
I will tell you one of my favorite Korracast moments. Actually,
I
is
know
a
it.
Vince moment.
Yeah, I know. It's,
Is the book one discussion, and you were talking about Amon and Tarlok, and you're like, "There's some sort of connection." I'm not saying they're bros, but but like, I mean, it's funny because I think, and I've told you guys this before, but I'll say it, live on camera and forever
yes.
to be
Say it to the camera. Recording posterity. No, I'm just kidding.
is that like what I liked about the way that you guys were fans of the show is that you're very much fans the way that I'm a fan of shows, and that me and my friends were fans of things, which is to say that like there's a lot of in-depth and meaningful discussion like about the art and the project, as opposed to just like, oh, I wish Mike and Brian would have done this, or like, oh, why'd they do that? That's stupid, blah, blah, blah. Even if it was something you didn't necessarily agree with, it's like, well, I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm interested to see where they're going. Which puts a lot of trust like in the creators. And as someone who's wants to create things, and as someone who also respects the creators of things, and also as someone who talks a lot with his hands, like I respect like what you guys were doing with that. But I was also like completely floored at times with how either close or spot on you guys were with like some of the guesses about things that like 5 episodes before something was going to happen, you're like, hey, what about this? And you're like, whoa! Like, what if they kill Prince Wu and then he walks into the bathroom?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I think the more hilarious moments of us were when we went totally to left field and just kept going and kept going.
Oh, totally.
And we never went back, and our discussions just went to Crazy Town.
But what's funny is that like some of those like ended up winding around two things that either made sense or were super close to what it was, and like that's why it developed in that regard. It may have been because I think you guys were one of the only quality videos of the.
That's being nice.
No. You were one of the only quality videos of the first Comic-Con panel.
Yeah, that was what you talked
That's
about.
where
I
we
remember.
got
I remember you contacted us to get a hold of that panel.
Yeah, I think that's why. And then I was like, what else do these guys do?
Good thing you didn't check out our YumChunks original shorts. You never would
Yeah,
have
there's
talked
some
to
like
us again.
Naruto's corn.
Speaking of that, the show that must not be named.
I would like to know your opinion about reaction videos.
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
I think that they're hilarious. Like, because
Yeah.
for me, watching people's reaction videos is like everybody who had read Game of Thrones before everyone else
Yeah.
watched the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, getting to watch those and see people react to that, like, is so entertaining to
Should
me.
we say how we feel about that?
I personally like them. You guys just don't seem to like them because when you're invested in something and you're watching it, you don't tend to react just out loud all the time.
I guess the way I feel about it is I think that a lot of reaction videos, as we have come to know them on YouTube, I feel like a lot of people are faking them.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like the way people react so loudly and animated that like I feel like we have an obligation as reactionary.
I think
to, like.
I mean, I what you said about the Red Wedding is the best example of a reaction
you
video I
want
can
to
think of.
experience something through someone else, but
you want to live
but-
vicariously, relive something you can't anymore. To an
Right.
extent. But I think one thing that frustrates me is that we put a lot of work into Korracast.
Me and Vince put a lot of work into it. We got to edit it for hours.
Just in our discussions, and it takes a lot of thought. Like,
Sure.
And our reaction video is, hit record and let's watch it. But those get like 3-4 times as many views. So there's a certain slight come on guys, like we're working
so
on
much
this.
effort into Korracast.
In fairness, that just means that the internet thinks that you guys are eye candy because
know.
they want to watch you react to things,
We're not
not watch
just a
you
bunch
talk.
of hot-looking
Not
guys.
just me.
We talk about things a lot of praise.
Yeah.
Our eyes
They
are
say
up here.
Korra is misogynistic.
What's your favorite
Opposite
episode
of
of Korracast?
misogyny.
Ooh, that's a good one.
The comment section wants you guys to go out on a Disney song. The vote is Prince Ali, but the
Why that one?
There was
We
a
are-
lot of stuff involving Hasook and several other things involved with that.
I mean, I'm on
Lots of
board with this,
Hasook
but I don't know
things?
if anyone else
Feel
is.
free to
well, Sean. They specifically asked for Sean to sing it.
For Sean to sing Prince
what's
Ali.
your favorite?
I don't know
Yeah,
all
sing
the
it.
words.
Does it
You have
have
a favorite Disney song?
It doesn't have to be Prince Ali.
Favorite
It's
Disney
just
song?
a Disney song,
Maybe
like
a
Be a
Disney
Man,
song.
I guess.
We could do a reprise of Be a Man.
No, I mean, Hasook could do. No, I was gonna say Mulan's other song.
Can you
More
serenade
reception?
Korra in Hasook's voice?
Well, I mean, Hasook's voice basically is my voice. Like,
Well, but
that's-
it's
that was the
it's your true
advantage. It was
voice,
a
okay?
real stretch for me.
I want to hear your
Hasook.
true voice.
No, it was that. Well, I guess Hasook was more my true voice. Get off my case, pal. Yeah, it was a little
Yeah,
higher.
that's your true voice.
Man,
A little higher placement.
It's not so silly.
Don't say that.
No, what have you done? You'll never speak in his true voice again.
Go, man.
Get off my
Get off my case, pal. That was just the doorman.
Oh, favorite line in all of Korra is the guy, "Hey, Mako."
That's Joaquin.
That was the best line.
Joaquin Dos Santos. Hey, Marco. Whoa.
Whoa.
So good.
Sean can twerk.
I can't. No, I can't.
Okay, you know what? Like, this is a trained monkey hour.
What?
We're here for your little quirks.
What? No, none
Okay.
of those words.
You started that once. We're first one you said we're trained monkey hour.
I'm only on one Benadryl right now.
Well, let's bump it up to
Let's
two.
pump some more
There's not even a cat box in here.
Oh, wait, we got a real question. Next.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank God.
Sean, do you feel that season 4 could have benefited from, like, there was the Korra alone, but if there was like the counter to that, the Kavira alone episode, where you go a little deeper into the dark side of what's going on in Kavira's mind?
I like that.
Potentially, I mean, yeah, I think that anything that was the development, you know, of the characters more, and especially like the antagonists, that's one of the things that I really have appreciated so much about Korra, and probably another reason why I would lean more Korra than I would Avatar: The Last Airbender, as far as picking one of the two if I had to, would be the villains. You know, like, you have these villains, like, because, you know, in Avatar you've got Ozai, obviously, as the main villain, and sure, you have Zuko, who has this, like,
Right.
arc, but he's more of, like, a main character. Like, he starts out as a villain, but then, you know, like,
Right.
he was never intended to just be a villain. So when you've got, like, Amon and Zahir, we won't talk about Unalaq, and Kuvira, that, like, you know, that you have these, like, ideals that people could genuinely get on the side of Amon, you know, like,
Okay.
Right.
and that's, I think, that one of the valid complaints, like, beyond that is that, like, after book 1, like, they sort of just leave it alone. It's like, oh, no more mention of non-benders versus benders. Though, I mean, I will say they elected a non-bending president or whatever, so, like, you know, there is representation, and he's kind of a jerk. Which is why we don't like non-benders.
Yeah, no, non-benders.
Kill all the non-benders.
You know, but that's why. But and I feel like I do think that book 4, like, that an explanation of Kuvira, you know, and where she was coming from. I think that it may have taken away from then the moment between her and Korra at the end. If we already knew her motivations and, like, her background completely, but then Korra didn't, like, us learning it at the same time that Korra did, and being able to see Korra's growth in being able to accept, like, oh, this is where she's coming from, like,
Right.
this is what I need to empathize with, you know, as we're learning it, like, you know, but I feel like, you know, Kuvira's background wasn't necessarily as easy to quickly understand as Zahir's was. For example, you know, even Zahir, we didn't have, like, Zahir alone, but you have, like, you know, them in Zhao Bao's grove explaining, like, hey, this is the Red Lotus, this is what we're going to do.
Also, like, you see his ideals, because the Earth Queen is so obnoxiously bad, and you see the president being obnoxious, that you understand where his ideals are coming from. And I think with Kuvira, maybe you didn't really see the what she was fighting against being a cause that I could relate to. And I think that's what
it's what I want to see. I said I wanted to see the mental toll that it that 3-year gap took on her to get her to this point. She had to reunite. She had to bring back Bossing Safe from being totally overrun, destroyed, and just I wanted to see all that.
And I think that's one of the things, though, that then when you go back, if you go back and watch Book 4 again, because I think for me, I didn't have obviously the same issues with it that other people do when I watched through the airings. Because, my wife and daughter, didn't see any of Korra until it was out. So I watched all the episodes of Book 4 and stuff with them.
Yeah.
And it made a lot more sense to me because I already knew.
Right.
So, now that you know where Kuvira is coming from, when you go back and you watch, you do sort of see the subtlety, and you see her frustration, and you see, and then you understand, too, that, her willingness to sacrifice Baatar, for example, was not an easy decision. If you really watch the minute, acting and stuff like that, it's not well, he's in there, it is a very, she's so willing to sacrifice anything to get her goal that she understands that that's what needs to happen. And she's crazy for it. Just like any of the other Korra villains, she has this ideal that you can sort of get behind, but then sort of just takes it a little too far. If she had taken over just everything except the Earth, or the United Nation, the United Republic, rather, I think that it would have been fine.
Yeah, but then, what's the conflict then, right? Exactly, and you need the conflict. You need someone to be just a step over normal, just a step, and they have to be a little crazy.
Nope, no conflict.
Otherwise, everyone just gets along, and Korra's over, and then Korra and Asami just walk into the portal, and there's no conflict. Maybe Kuvira's with them.
The portal doesn't exist without the conflict.
Exactly. Oh, man.
There's other portals.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's balanced. So the portals are on the polar opposite. They're the extremes, you could say, right? But with the new portals in between, the happy medium,
in Republic City, where everyone lives together,
it's like poetry.
Yeah. It rhymes. Every stanza.
The only problem is that the Republic City is actually way.
Right.
It's
Oh, by the way, is the Avatar world the front of it, all this landmass, and the rest is just water? I want to know how that globe wraps around.
So you could get to the Fire Nation by just going east on Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
So why didn't they do that in Avatar? Okay.
Maybe they don't know that yet.
Thoughts, Sean, on the movie that never existed?
Oh yeah. What are your thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
Because that movie doesn't exist.
That movie doesn't. Yeah.
Oh.
We did. I mean, we had a pool when because it came out as Korra was first staffing up. For book 1 and stuff, and so we had a pool on Rotten Tomatoes, how low it would score.
Did you win?
I don't think nobody wins. In that. When it comes to that movie, nobody wins.
Oh man.
Yeah, man. I was as a fan of the original series, I was so excited for that potentially, and I was even willing to look past the fact that M. Night was doing it. And even some of the scenes that they showed in the previews that involved bending, I'm oh, it looks kind of cool. And they showed the Fire Nation ships. I'm oh, it's kind of cool. And then I saw the movie and I was what the heck? What the what?
I think
it was terrible.
The worst thing about it is that it's gonna put fear in Nick to ever want to go back to a theatrical release for.
I don't know. It could go the other way though. It could go do it right and get someone that's going to do it right, and then you could eclipse and actually do something good enough to make that go away.
I think too. I think especially in the last couple of years with the expansion of media and just the interwave. What is all the Justice League movies and Batman animated movies going straight to Netflix or streaming. There's a market now for high quality animated feature length things that don't necessarily have to be a theatrical release. And I think something like the Avatar universe, it would be a perfect opportunity.
And Nickelodeon is developing more of a relationship with the Paramount, which is the parent company and stuff, to potentially do animated and stuff. So who knows what I mean? But that the SpongeBob movie is going to be.
Oh yeah, that's happening.
Out and stuff like that.
That's I love the first SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I have a bunch of friends that worked on it because they worked on the series and then jumped over.
Cool. So
good times.
We wrap up with a song.
Okay, the new request was "Let It Go."
Nobody but me wants to sing "Let It Go."
Chewie, take it away.
Take it away.
Just leave the
camera
on Chewie. We'll leave.
Matt, take it away.
Call me that.
You can't call me that.
don't. No.
We called him that once on air.
How about we just?
Got
Yeah,
upset.
he really
I didn't get
Chewy.
upset.
It was me. I called it. I was like,
We're
hey,
supposed to say Matt.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
I think
No,
this
it's okay.
see what I appreciate about this the most is you get to see the raw
Yeah.
footage of us, because
Like-
when the final edit of Korracast looks nothing like the raw footage.
That's not saying much though, because the final edit of Korracast
It's not much either, but if you can imagine, it's somehow
Yeah.
worse.
it's
Much
It
worse.
actually goes a lot worse than this, really. I mean, a lot
try to-
ends up from
I
not
try to
being-
bring stability.
Yeah.
You
I
actually
bring
do.
balance.
Everywhere I go. You're right in the middle.
There's a
I've got
pole coming
Rava
out
on
of
me.
you. We're all gonna hold hands and
gonna
walk
walk
inside
into
you.
you.
Don't look into that the other way.
My left boob.
Is that?
My left boob has
might wanna
Rava.
rephrase.
Nope, we're gonna just hold hands
We're
and
gonna
walk
glue
inside.
ourselves.
Oh man, Sean.
So do we?
Most recent, some sick, twisted joke y'all are pulling.
I don't know
What?
All right.
The end.
We're pulling a sick, twisted joke.
That's the end. The end of Dog
We
Racing.
should. We can sing. We
I
can
really
sing.
did work on Korra.
Oh man,
See, look, it says crew right here.
must be swift as a
Coursing river man,
without the force of a great typhoon.
Hey, there's pizza.
Okay, hey, wait, don't cut yet. All right, so we'll be back to review the comics. We're gonna take a little break first. Until then, please watch our Four Wheels reviews. Somebody please watch our movie reviews. Mouseology, our new Disney project that's coming up probably in March, but the pilot's up. If you watch that, if you haven't seen it, if you're here, you probably were watching an intermission though. So send it to your friends, and thank you again. Of course,
Yeah,
for,
sure,
being,
awesome.
for joining us in our Catbox Studios
Yeah.
garage.
I'll be back for more Korracast.
We got a few
Right
episodes
here.
left.
And thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
else?
Or Massology, that could be fun. I worked there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
let's do
that's-
Massology.
yes, sir.
Hey, if anybody watches Massology, if that takes off, we could do Massology
You come
last year.
back for our live action review of the movie that never happened.
Yeah, we were
Oh,
planning
yeah.
actually.
I think we're gonna get drunk and
We're
watch
gonna do a
that.
drinking game. What do you say?
Oh, God.
Drink
Okay.
every time the
Because
movie's
I got Avatar shot glasses. Sean gave me Avatar
Yeah.
shot glasses. And it
Have you
just
seen
Drink
drunk.
every time they say Ong.
I think it's every time you do the names wrong. Is what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
name- or mention the Great Library.
getting the water scroll at the Great Library. So maybe we'll review Last Airbender in a fun way. All right.
Anyways, thanks for watching.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Cut the stream.
Cut it.